Hello and welcome again to a semi-special episode of the Elite City Podcast because we're going to talk about the All Out pay-per-view. And wow, that's all I could say. Rick?
Yeah, great show. Great post-show.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I enjoyed all of it. And as I left Twitter yesterday, I thought people were enjoying the show. They had a good time. I left Twitter 20 minutes after it ended. And I was like, people seem to enjoy the show. And I know in an hour they're going to be mad about the show. That's just how the internet goes. But
Correct.
I did not expect the reaction to what I woke up to this morning.
My God. Genius.
Which we will go, and as we met. Yeah, we'll go into it obviously, but as we were talking about just before we got on the actual broadcast part, we're both looking at, I guess I could go to Dynamite tomorrow. It's possible.
Yes.
I'm looking up the driving directions to Buffalo. I'm it's not that far. It's 2 hours. It's possible.
Yeah, it's just north of Erie for me. So I mean it's.
But yeah, that's going to be a must-watch show, which is exactly what they wanted it to be.
Yes. Well, that's what I was just going to say. I was going to lead with AEW has been must-watch for us, but now it has become must-watch for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about it. I was just on Twitter, all day, but the most recent time I was on Twitter, I was just looking at the trends. CM Punk and AEW have been trending for 19 consecutive hours.
Yeah, it was a big show. It was a big. I mean, even without the post show press stuff. I mean, everything that happened at the show itself was good. And I know we'll go into detail on all the matches and what happened afterwards. And I know a lot of people were upset that, we're just talking about the post-show stuff. We're not talking about the actual show itself. But Tony Khan doesn't care. If you're talking about AEW and thinking I might watch AEW on Wednesday, he doesn't care why you're watching AEW, really. He just wants you to watch the show. So mission accomplished.
Well, you brought it up this afternoon when we were texting back and forth with all this stuff. There were 2 other wrestling events this same weekend that nobody is talking about.
As far I didn't see either of them, but as far as I can tell, the WWE show, the Clash at the Castle show, was very good. People seem to have liked, but it could have happened 3 months ago, based on how little people are speaking about it now. From what I can tell, it was a good show, and it was immediately overshadowed. Which obviously was the point. I mean, if you have 2 or more wrestling shows from different companies on the same weekend, you want on Monday that people are talking about your show, not the other guy's show. And mission accomplished. They did exactly what they set out to do, even without the post-match stuff. Even just the way the show ended is something that people were going to be talking about.
100%. So let's just get right into it. The show opens with our buddy RJ City interviewing Sammy and Ty.
That was amazing.
That was fantastic.
I know it's the pre-show. We're not going to talk that much about it, but when they started making out and he just stood there with the mic awkwardly,
it was fantastic.
That was excellent work.
And as they were making out, you heard a car horn or something, and then they Sammy and Ty go to check it out, and Sammy gets run over again.
Sammy getting run over with stuff is such a good running gag.
It is so good. I seriously hope, if he would ever leave and go to WWE or somewhere, I hope this follows him.
Yeah, I love that. That's just his thing. He gets hit by cars.
It would be on the
golf carts or whatever. Yeah, it's great. I love
WrestleMania moment down the big huge ramp.
One day he gets inducted into a Hall of Fame somewhere, and a golf cart hits him.
Yeah, I hope it follows him.
Excellent. I like how this started too. It was a nice hot start. It reminded me of like a 90s pay-per-view where just like suddenly they're in the middle of a match, they're wearing street clothes, they're like, it was good.
And we have to say Ortiz and Ruby Soho paid a little tribute to some Japanese wrestlers. Ortiz wore his face paint as I'll probably say this wrong, so I apologize. Aja Kong.
Yes, I believe that's
right. And Ruby Soho had Bull Nakanos, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I was confused by the tights first that Ortiz had on, but then Excalibur told us the reasoning. Of course, Excalibur.
Yes, he did.
Knows these things, so.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here early, and I've said it before. Sammy and Ty, this should be Cody and Brandy.
100%. Definitely.
And
like if Cody had decided that the right thing to do was to turn heel, which the right thing to do was to turn heel at the point where he was in his career in AEW, he could, that's 100%.
Imagine him just getting made a fool of every week in front of his wife.
It would be great.
It would be, he should be doing it. Anyways, but he's doing what he wants.
Yes.
Ruby, she put on, well, both ladies put on a heck of a show, but Ruby, I criticized her when she first came. And I even sent you a text, I think, last week or the week before during one of her matches on Dynamite or Rampage. She has lost the, I don't want to say that like having WWE TV skills is bad, because any skill is good, but she lost their method, we'll say.
And what I've noticed is she lost the goofy face, like the over the top facial expressions, where like when someone kicks out of a pin, you're like, oh, and like she stopped doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, she's not overacting.
Yeah, it's the over that, and I believe I saw Vince McMahon or maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin on his podcast once talk about why they do that. They're like, oh, because it's, a big arena, and when the people are at the back, they need to be able to see your reaction. But like we have HD cameras, like there's no need for that now. Like,
I had a little stir up. Anna Jay came down to try to take out Ruby. She did not succeed. Ruby threw her into the steps, and then we had, it was actually after that kind of just like a normal match, and Sammy and Ty retained. A little bit of tomfoolery, but not much. But it was a good staple, good way to start the show.
Yeah, Ruby took two pretty bad shots. One, she landed really awkwardly on her neck, which I seems like she was fine from. And
from that, yeah.
And I believe she also broke her nose with a shot there, which is unfortunate for her.
Yeah, I went back and I watched that this afternoon. When it happens, it's one of those, like, obviously Ty's not trying to do that.
No.
It's one of those situations where it was like the perfect storm. Like, Ty's knee couldn't have hit her in the nose any more squarely than she hit her. Like, it was so perfect. Like, that had to hurt.
And speaking of, obviously, we obviously hope she's okay. But speaking of, and not that we've speaking of, but we will be speaking of, worked shoots and the blurring the lines between reality and the show. And people were so mad at Sammy because when Ruby did the awkward the awkward bump on her neck, Sammy was holding her and Ty kind of knocked her off, and Sammy dropped her.
Right.
And people were so mad at Sammy, being like, "You're not protecting her when she falls." I'm like, that's how you know that he's doing a really good job. People are like legitimately mad at him.
Yes.
Just for being
a mistake.
Just for like being on wrestling and like not being perfect. Like he's legitimately. He is what Cody should have been. Like, people are legitimately just mad at him for being on TV.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's what he wants, obviously.
100%. And if you think about it, like, him dropping the TNT title was probably the best thing for him right now.
Definitely.
Like, he doesn't need it.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
He just shows up and the crowd he ruins the crowd's night.
And he's young and he's going to win titles for 20 years probably. So he doesn't need it right now. He just needs to be like the obnoxious jerk that he can clearly be, and does a great job at it. And like, he will be champion one day. and
100%.
he doesn't need it right now. Right now, he needs to do what he's doing.
100% agree. We had Hook take on Mr. Angelo Parker.
Yes.
Hook is so smooth in the ring.
Yeah, good showing for Hook. Good showing for good. I mean, a long match, but
yes,
good
it
match.
was long for a Hook match, though.
Yes, definitely.
I didn't time it, but I would feel comfortable going on record to say this is probably his longest match.
Yeah, either this, like, the longest singles match. Yeah, he had the tag.
Yeah, longest singles match.
But yeah, longest singles match for sure. And it was good. It was what he needed to do.
Yeah, it wasn't a squash. Parker gave him some adversity. They kept talking about Parker being the 20-year vet, gave Hook a little bit of a heel to overcome. They went outside of the ring. Menard jumped in. It was very well done. Even the Action Bronson thing was cool. Normally I'd complain about that.
I like the wrestling tradition of, I mean, everyone knows it's like forbidden for fans to jump the guardrail and for fans to go into the ring, but unless it's a celebrity, then it's like perfectly cool.
1,000%.
Then like we're just, oh, this guy sang a song. Oh yeah, definitely, he let him in. That's perfectly fine. 100% acceptable. Oh, that guy was a boxer. Yeah, sure, let him in. Yeah, he can come in the ring. Of course, UFC guy, come in the ring. Regular fan, no, that's completely forbidden.
Yeah, like somebody that can actually beat up the wrestler. No, they're allowed in, but like a fan that's like drunk and like, it's just like, no, they're not.
It's just like this established wrestling thing that like famous people are allowed to just come in and like fight whenever they want.
Correct. And then just go back to their seats.
Right.
No questions.
Or for all people, not go back to a seat. We didn't see Action Bronson the rest of the night. Like, should have
got to go backstage. I forgot. Yeah. But again, Hook retains. Then the next two matches were like the main show might as well have started because they were. I mean, not that any of these matches were bad, but the next two could have been.
The first two were like clearly get the crowd into it matches, like get everyone hyped up, get everyone excited. Yeah.
And I'm gonna give Tony Khan credit right here. Like, I totally just realized this right now. Literally, the pre-show was 4 title matches.
Right.
just realize that 3 title matches. And it was a rubber match it was number 2. It was 2. Sorry. Anyways, All Atlantic Championship. These guys worked so well together. They looked like their chemistry. Like, I bet you they wrestled each other 1,000 times. They had to. They just so good.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the history between the two of them, and I'm assuming there is some because it would be a little weird if there suddenly was no history. Like I feel like there is, and I just don't know what it is, and that's perfectly fine because, as we mentioned a million times, I have the internet, and if I would like to know, I can just look it up. But Kip Sabian's character, like I never cared for Kip Sabian prior to this, like when he was with Miro or Penelope Ford, like it was always fine, but like I never cared about him particularly, as mean as that sounds. But I like this character. It's fun. I like the promo that he cut on like the Countdown show. I liked his like talking to the box thing. Like it's a unique. I like it.
Gave me Snow vibes.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
My buddy was here and we were talking about it, and I was explaining. He listens to the podcast. Thank you, Brett. You're
excellent.
Awesome dude.
Excellent.
Yes. So it was funny.
So now I like him.
Yes, as you should. He's a solid human being. He listens to the podcast, but he doesn't have cable, so he doesn't watch the shows.
Sure.
So he even noticed that Kip was different by his look. Like, he was like, what's up with that? And I was like, well, this guy has a character on him. Like, there is in like, yourself up to like 20, like obviously he's not like, claiming to be like the Undertaker of special powers or anything.
Right.
He's like a super villain, or that's what it's leaning.
Yeah, he feels a little bit like a kind of a campy Batman villain.
Yes.
Which I like.
Totally.
Like, I like it. Not like a really dark Batman villain, but like kind of like a playful Batman villain. Like I like it.
Oh yeah. Like cartoons or something.
Right.
Just a dude with like, I mean, obviously he's not a billionaire, but like he would be like slaying.
Right.
It's bad. Like it's
I like it. Good match too.
match. Pac retains, as I feel he should have. He deserves a long reign for this title. But
yeah, I would have been okay with Kip winning just because you're reintroducing him. But Pac, whatever. I can never tell what it is.
I can't, because everyone says it different.
Right.
It just depends on who's calling.
But yeah, he deserves to have this, and I like that his thing of going around the world to different places and defending the title. I like it.
Yeah, and if they could do something like, I know Penelope Ford and Kip's now live here, but I mean, I probably has family over there that he more often. If they follow Pac, like how sick would that be?
Like, that'd be good.
Yeah, just so good. Each each other, honestly. Yeah. Let's just say that. I mean, that's basically what they did. Like,
and it was like I understand it was like a kind of like an acquired taste match because a lot of it was just chops. So if you're the kind of person who would get bored by that, I understand being bored by that. But like, if you're the kind of person who's like just wants to see people hit each other really hard, which from the reaction I saw is a lot of people. It was good. I liked it.
If you want to quote unquote call this the main event for the pre-show, it definitely put the crowd in a mood. I mean,
like I was thinking if I took one of those chops, I would just like have to go lie down for like a long period of time. Like I would just be like, I'm done. I'm calling out sick for like a week just to recover from it. But they took like 50 of them.
Yes. I'll tell the story. We were watching, saw that, and I was like, if one of those guys, not somebody, but like someone like them who knows what they're doing, did that to me, my body would just catch on fire. I would spontaneously combust and turn into a pile of ash. Like, I couldn't even comprehend that much pain.
Yeah, no, that it, like you could see it. Like this was not.
Yes.
I mean, yes, they weren't hitting with their absolute strength. I'm sure they weren't, but like they were hitting each other. Like you could see the purple on their chests. Like,
well, that's what I was just gonna say. Imagine slapping somebody, like, again, like you're not running up and doing it with like all of your might, but hard enough that you can make them bleed if you do it a few times.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's hard to do. But Kingston has a clean win, and now they're tied. So
and it looked like he was using he went for the back fist a couple times, and I think he hit it once. But he looked like he had a different finish. I forget what the move was now. But he hit a different move for the finish, and I like that because I like the back fist, but I don't think it's a good finish. I think it's a good like signature move. Like
it's a good call.
But I liked whatever. I forget what the move was now, and I feel ridiculous for not knowing that because I brought it up as a point. But I liked that he has even having two finishers in case the first one doesn't work. I like that for him.
It was great,
and you're right. They're 1-1, so they will have. I mean, it seems like they're going to have something going on down the line.
Yeah, they have a.
I even liked that Eddie wanted to go over and shake his hand after the match, and him being like, "No, I lost. I'm upset. I want to leave."
It was great. It was. You sent the text that as soon as the card was ending, they were setting up the ladders. And not only did they set the ladders, they basically set the tone for, I don't know, the next, well, it's 9:00, the next 25 hours. I mean, we're still talking.
Yeah. And they set up storylines for who knows how long now, just with this one match. Like this could be months of storyline.
The casino ladder match, we had Rey Fenix, Wheeler Yuta, Andrade, Claudio, Dante, Penta. I'm pretty sure I got everybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And the Joker, of course.
And the Joker, which we're going to get to here in a minute. First and foremost, Wheeler Yuta, never let anybody ever again powerbomb you onto a ladder.
Yeah.
That looked terrible.
It was one of those things where like I appreciate that, but like you didn't have to do it. Like
yeah, I get that it's a pay-per-view, but dude, you're regretting life right now.
I think they should have whenever he's well enough, they should have Jeff Hardy just be backstage to be like, look, don't be like him. Look how he can barely move. Look how he can barely move around because
this guy is literally 15 years older.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that should be his role. Like when he retires, just be like, look how I can't walk. That's because of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm 43. You're like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna say the things that Dante Martin and the Lucha Brothers did, like they're not human beings because they were literally defying gravity.
Yeah, that's insane.
When Dante did the springboard, the top rope over Claudio onto the ladder, who was already on the ladder.
Yeah,
was unbelievable.
I would also like to point out that I think Rush and Andrade don't know how ladder matches work.
Pretty sure they don't know that because they could have easily won. Like,
because when was it Yuta who was climbing and then Rush still did his full entrance?
Yes,
he came out and like slowly took off his suit and he took it off his mask and posing, and I'm like, Yuta could have just won that match. And Yuta's kind of like, I know I'm not supposed to win this match. But what am I supposed to do right now? And then Andrade came in and they just set up the ladders and then just like walked out of the ring.
Yeah, that was the best part.
Like, do you know that you're supposed to climb and grab? Like, did no one tell? Like, had they never seen a ladder match and no one had informed them of the rules of this match? I really liked Claudio because he just like ran down to the ring. He didn't do it. Like it was right after Yuta got power bombed. He just ran down. He didn't have an entrance. He didn't have like he just ran, which I liked. Which is speaking of WWE experience, I believe that probably came from there. Like I'm sure that someone told him like in these matches, like a Royal Rumble match or something like this, don't do your entrance, just run to the ring.
So. And it made sense because he was quote unquote saving Wheeler too. So yeah, you're probably right. It made it more real.
Yeah, and then Penta came out and still had his pyro.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, like I said, the everything that everybody did, and we get the final countdown, and I don't know, there's 6 people in the ring for the Joker, and nobody knew what was happening.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought that was a cool surprise.
So cool. Mr. Stokely Hathaway pulls off the mask, and then you see everybody that he ever gave a card to. You have Ethan Page, Lee Moriarty, the Ass Boys, and
William Morrissey.
W. Morrissey. I was going to call him his other name. They're all in the ring.
The internet will not be happy with that.
I correct. You are correct, not me. I'm wrong. Stokely, very stoically, awesome look on his face. It was different. It was sinister. You knew something was stirring. Takes the chip down and proceeds to just walk up the ramp. And then you see that there's somebody else there. Oh, wait, no, they came down.
No, they came down.
They came down.
The really cool entrance of the Stones, Sympathy for the Devil.
Yes.
Which Tony Khan must have shelled out some big bucks for.
He had to. I mean, it's the Rolling freaking Stones.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. I know the bands themselves don't take, and this is a tangent again. I keep doing this. I know the bands themselves don't take these phone calls, but I would love for there to be a phone call or an email being like, "Hi, we have a wrestling match, and we want to have a bunch of guys in masks storm the ring, and then another guy in a mask is going to come down, and he previously called himself the Devil. So we would like your song. We would like your song play." And they would go, "Okay, sure."
Yeah. Will your $3 million check clear in 24 hours? Like, we don't care what you do with it.
But yeah, really cool, really surprising outcome. I liked it. I thought it was. I never seen a ladder match end like that. And realistically, why shouldn't it? If you have a a stable with you. Why shouldn't they all just rush the ring and take the thing? So
agreed. Now the commentary planted a seed that as we always talk about, and we're going to talk about in greater detail here in a little bit. AEW likes to plant seeds for things to come to fruition in the future, and then you can go back and look and see all the points that they hit along the lines.
Yes.
Taz made a hell of a point. He wanted to know before the Joker came out, what if somebody wins the match?
Right.
Like, can that match be won at any time? We don't know. Like, that's obviously going to happen now.
Right.
Just like we've been talking about, oh, Athena made that jacket herself.
Right.
Why is it still at the top of the ramp? Oh, that's why. But with Taz saying that, we're going to get one of these casino ladder matches here, and there's going to be a Joker, and everyone's going to say, who is it? Who is it? Well, now it doesn't have to be anybody.
Right. There could just be no Joker. Yeah.
Correct.
It could be one before that. And I feel like that's part of the confusion with the Andrade Rush thing. I think that they weren't sure if you could win before everyone was in the ring, even though
that's true too.
Even though I think it was Excalibur pointed out that you could have. Like the first two, they were like, they should try to win it right now.
Yeah.
Like,
because why wouldn't you? It's like the Royal Rumble. Like, I mean, it's the opposite of the Royal Rumble. You don't have to wait until number 30 comes down. Like,
you could win it at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that would be that people would be really mad, but I would like to see that.
Especially if you hype it up. Like, if there's 8 men and there's 7 and there's a Joker and the 7th music hits, and then within that 2 minutes someone just hits it, climbs the ladder, and then the match is over then. So
then you could have whoever was supposed to be the Joker just be really mad about it for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that they never got their chance,
and never got their moment. Like, you could write it right into the.
You could make it Brian Cage just to be funny.
You could make it Brian Cage just to be funny. Well, we'll discuss on who the Joker is. We'll keep it the way that they did it.
Yeah,
we got to,
which I really liked. Before we move on, I just want to say I really liked that they didn't reveal who it was.
That's what I was just going to say. I liked the fake reveal. It was so good.
And it left me at least thinking, are they going to announce it after the main event, which they did, or are they going to they could have stretched it out. Like they could have stretched it out for a couple weeks, and either way would have been cool.
Yes. So with that little nugget planted, we're moving right along to the finals of the inaugural trios tournament, which was Dark Order and Hangman versus Bucks and the Bucks and Kenny.
What a match. Incredible match.
Incredible is like for sure the best way. It's better than that somehow.
I think this or the tag title match for me was the match of the night. This was an excellent match.
I agree. And I feel bad because it's like you almost want to give the match of the night to the tag match because of the Acclaim, but you also want to give it to the 6-man because of the Dark Order.
Right.
Like people that are like, I mean, regardless, both of those matches helped the Dark Order and the Acclaimed. I mean, they're not even in the atmosphere anymore. They're very big right now. But I mean, Kenny Omega looks great.
I love the thinking that now it was a ruse that he was in, at, like, you know, the compression top and the tape and everything that they're saying. Oh, he never needed that. That's pretty cool. I like the kind of like fake out with that.
And also, how good are his entrances?
Oh yeah, Kevin Nash's favorite wrestler,
and possibly Will Ospreay's now too. So good.
I love that. I hope they keep doing those.
I cracked up whenever they said something like he agreed to be their partner, even though Hangman was their first choice.
Good.
It was so good. So good.
And like obviously the wrestling involved in the match, excellent. But
yes,
like the Elite Hangman Dark Order storyline that's now been going on for years. It's like I think is always good. Like they always do such a good job of like having an emotional story that means something and that matters and that you care about. And like I've said before, Hangman is excellent at making you care about the thing that he's wrestling for. Like, he does such a good job at making you care so much for whatever he wants at the time. So good.
So good. I mean, this match like had a little bit of everything. It had comedy, it had high flying, it had technical wrestling. I mean, it was just off the charts. I loved the 4-way super kick. Seriously, I thought that was one of the most
I also really like
looking things.
I also really like the early going when they were teasing the arguments, the kind of dissension between Hangman and Dark Order. Like, they wanted to attack Matt. It was when he was down, and Hangman stopped them to be like, "No, we're friends. Don't do that." And then by the end of the match, he was all for it. Like, it was
Oh, that was. I mean, that was storytelling right there.
They're so good at telling stories like during the course of a match.
Yeah, I mean, let's go right into it. We've had Hangman and Kenny now face each other for the first time since. So I didn't think we would get that. I really didn't. I thought they would save that. And again, the probably planting seeds for the rematch now.
Yeah. And like, you really want to see where this goes with all of this, because it's not over.
Obviously, yes. Well, I mean, we now have a trios division, so yeah, it's gonna be lights out.
I think I saw somewhere that Alex Reynolds was on crutches leaving, which is unfortunate for him because he had a good match.
Oh, I was just going to bring up his big save. Which I think was the very first of like 19 false finishes.
Oh, there were a couple of them when like I was pretty sure that the Elite were going to win, but there were a couple of times when like John Silver almost got pins, and I fell for it. Like, I immediately
100%.
Yeah.
The roll up on Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was it. I thought that was going to be it.
So did I.
And I texted you by the end of the match. Like, I was watching this alone at home, and like by the end of it, like I was like standing up, like I was just excited. Like, it was so good.
It was so freaking good. And again, drama. Hangman accidentally takes out John Silver after John Silver just annihilated the Elite. It was that was so
everything about it. And they had the Hangman standing on the apron with the Bucks below him. Like, are they going to grab his leg? They didn't last time, but this time they did. Like, they're so good at like the little stuff. I know we talk about Bret Hart so much that I feel like FTR. But it's the little things that Bret Hart did. Like, he would have the famous Austin Hart WrestleMania match when he grabbed the ring bell and went to use it, didn't use it. It ended up on the apron, and then like 20 minutes later, it came into play in the match. Like, little things like that, the Elite Hangman do. Like, they do little things during matches that don't matter at the time, but matter so much. Like, either later on in that match or later on in a different match, and they do such a good job of it.
It's there's levels, and that's what's
It sounds like snobby, but it's professional wrestling, so it's dumb. It's professional wrestling. But it's like smart professional wrestling. Like, for the people who are paying attention, like if you're paying attention and you're following, like there's little things for you to notice throughout the matches or throughout the feuds. And that's kind of like your reward for like watching all these matches and knowing all the storylines and being there for the ride. And it really adds to it.
It does. And like the thing is like it continually keeps like people talking about it, because you might see something that I miss, or or I could be like, oh yeah, that happened in like Ring of Honor 7 years ago, but they will make a callback like that. It's it's very much hidden fan service that fans don't realize that's happening to them, but we'll get into that.
Yes. Oh, there's so much to get into. That's why I don't know if anyone's listening who's noticed that we're kind of going through these quickly, because we have a lot.
Kind of going a little quick, yeah.
We have a lot. And obviously, and if you've paid any attention to the internet over the last 2 days, you will know what we have to talk about. It is coming.
The Bucks and Kenny win the inaugural tournament, which makes Kenny the first Triple Crown champion in AEW. He
Yes.
has now held the tag belts, the world title, and the trios belts. I don't know why well, I guess because the TNT title would be considered like those are world titles. So okay, so Triple Crown does make sense.
Yeah, he's won one of like every type. Like there's,
Yes.
six man tag team singles. He's won like the top title in each sort of division.
Yes, so he's the first Triple Crown champion, as he should be.
He should be
deserved. Yeah, very well deserved.
I mean, we're not gonna. He's Kenny Omega. Like obviously, he should be.
Yes, and they're the freaking Young Bucks. They literally put over Private Party in the inaugural tag team tournament.
Yeah,
that everybody and their mother thought that they were going to win.
The Young Bucks have. I mean, Kenny Omega coming into AEW. I'd seen some of the Young Bucks. I'd seen some of Kenny Omega, but I was primarily like a WWE, WWF guy prior to this. And Kenny Omega I'd seen and liked and was like knew when he was going to show up, like he was going to have good matches, obviously. The Young Bucks, from what I'd seen of them, I was like, I don't know if I'll like them. They seem kind of like, the extra choreographed wrestling that I don't know if I'm that into that up, but like they've really, really won me over with just like their storytelling and their like obviously the athletic ability, but the way they put matches together, the way they put storylines together, they've done an excellent job. Like their reign in AEW, even though yes, they're 2-time champions, but even though like they're not usually like the centerpiece of the tag division,
yes,
they've really won me over with just everything they do. Like they do such a good job.
And they're just genuinely good people, which again, we're going to get into why a lot of this new stuff doesn't make sense.
Yes, when you're talking about how good they are at their jobs,
yes,
not everyone agrees with that.
Correct. A little surprise, little wild card on the match, the TBS Championship match. I'm not going to complain. Jade versus Athena. I picked it wrong, but that's what I'm going to complain about. But other than myself, I thought it was a good match. Jade just continues to hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah, I felt a little bad, and the other you can say that this is a Tony Khan, women's wrestling not taking priority, and I would agree with you in this. I felt bad for the position on the card because this match had to follow the trios match, but everyone knew was going to be
right.
But like Jade and Athena, give her credit too. But I mean, their stuff from the Countdown show was excellent. They should have given them more mic time. But I agree. Jade, when she shows up, it's like a big deal. Like it's immediately a big deal. It feels important. She feels important. And I thought she wasn't going to keep her title, but it makes perfect sense that she has it because the TBS title was nothing before her, obviously. And she's above the title in some ways, but also she makes it important. Like I don't know if the TBS title would matter that much if it wasn't her holding it. I could see it falling down the card to become a little bit less important if she wasn't the one holding it.
I totally agree with that. She is doing for this title, even though it's brand new, what Ricky Starks did for the FTW title.
Right.
It's hard to be something when, I was guilty of it too. Like people didn't have faith in Jade, and Jade has continually proved everybody wrong. I didn't check the time on this either. This could have been Jade's longest match. This match, they went. It was a solid women's match. Like it went for a while.
Yeah, and I saw some people were upset that it wasn't as long as, like it wasn't like a 20-minute epic match. And I mean, not everything has to be a 20-minute epic match.
That's what I was going to say. It didn't need to be.
Yeah, and this is the snide comment of me where I'm going to take shots like I just watched when I'm in a post-show press conference. Stretching all matches out to 20-minute quote-unquote epics is why people didn't like watching Triple H at WrestleMania. Because so many of his matches, if they had been half the length that they were, would be very good matches. You don't need a match can be excellent in 5, 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be 20, 25, 30 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be. And some matches especially don't have to be. Some matches do. Some matches, that's the story you're telling. Like you You have if it was a Kenny Omega Hangman match, you would expect it to be a long match. But Jade doesn't need that. And that's not a shot at Jade's wrestling ability. We all know she's new and she's not as experienced as a lot of people. But that's her thing. Like, that's her character. No one wants Hook to have long matches. And it's also because he's new and not that experienced. But they've made that their character.
Yes.
So it makes perfect sense that Hook isn't having 20-minute epics, or Jade isn't have, just like Goldberg didn't have, or Ultimate Warrior didn't have, because that's not who they are. That's not their gimmick.
And oh man, what a point you just made, because when they lose, somebody is going to have to push them beyond their like legit limits. That's a great point. Yeah, like
Jade. I've anyone who has a problem with Jade, like you're thinking of wrestling in a very closed off manner that all wrestling. AEW said this a bunch of times. Not all wrestling is the same. You have technicians, you have high flyers, you have brawlers, you have whatever, and not every wrestler is the same, and not every match has to be the same. And if you're thinking that, oh, why isn't Jade going out and having a match, like Serena Deeb would have, or Thunder Rosa would have, because that's not who she is. That's not her as a wrestler, at least at this point. Maybe it will be in 10 years.
Right.
But that's not who she is right now. That's not who her character is. And that's not even a shot against her. She's doing an excellent job.
Oh, so good.
And I can't find, yes, she's not, there's a couple spots that she messes up sometimes. But like, in terms of growth and presentation and aura, and like, she's a legitimate star. And nobody knew who she was, 2.5 years ago? Like, when she was in that match with Shaq and Cody, who was she?
Right.
Nobody knew who she was. And now look who she is. Like, she's done an amazing job.
Exactly.
And that kick, the kick that right before the Jaded, that looked good. Like, you can say what you want about her, like, maybe missing moves sometimes, but, like, that was perfect.
And, like, I mean, if you miss a move, like, it's just all about being professional, and
she's got that. There was times before where she'd miss a move and kind of get lost for a little bit, whereas now she'll like miss a slam and she'll either do it again or she'll just move on with the match. Like, she's clearly growing in her role as a wrestler.
And I mean, that's what I was just going to say, and that has to be coming from Danielson and Regal. Like,
I mean, then that's not even saying that they're helping her, but obviously she's doing the work. Like, she's
absolutely.
She's doing this. She doesn't have to. She could probably get away with doing less, because just of her presentation and her, look, but she's clearly working too. So,
and that's what I was just going to say. And the work is paying off, because she is, honestly, I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago. I honestly want Jade to lose the TBS championship, and then like 2 weeks later have her first match for the AEW women's and just win it.
I was thinking, could she do like, because I can't think of anyone who could beat her right now. Could she win both? Could she just hold this? And Goldberg did it. He held the U.S. title and then won the world title, and then he dropped the U.S. title. Are they going for that? Like, is she just gonna hold this to get to 50 or something, and then challenge whoever the women's champion is and take that too, and have both titles for a bit?
And just going with what we just saw with Mox, we don't really know how long Gross is on the shelf for. If they do a trial run of that with Jade and it doesn't go over, well, then she can lose, and she was never women's champion.
Right.
Like, that's wow.
Now I want to see it. Now that she has like this kind of Goldbergish booking, I want to see her have both titles like he did. And everyone's going to make the Goldberg comparisons, but they're already making the Goldberg comparisons, and positively, not negatively. And I want to see it. I want to see her have both titles, and then she has to relinquish one of them because she can't hold both. But I want to see her have both. I want her. I now that she beat Athena, I want her to like get to 50 or 100 or whatever. Like, I want this to keep going.
Yeah, like I mean,
because I can't see anyone who could beat her at this point, other than Britt Baker or something. Who people like? I don't think she should. Like, nobody would think she should. So.
Well, we just talked about it last week. I'll bring it up again, even though we said no just last week. Do we just let her keep winning till Statlander comes back?
I mean, yeah. I don't. Maybe. I don't know.
Because I was like, how sick would that be if she's gone? Just say if she's gone till next year's All Out just because All Out was last night.
Right.
Statlander comes back at All Out. Jade is still the champion. Makes her debut.
And like 100-0 or something, like some.
Yeah, or whatever it is, you know. And Statlander, it's mystery opponent. She's beaten everybody. Blah 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 blah. Who could it be? It's Stat, and just thwarts her. Like
that would be great.
Oh,
that would be great. Awesome. Even if she had transitioned to the women's title by that point, like if she just still hadn't lost but had now won the women's title, like the world title.
Right.
Yeah. That now I want to see that. Now I want that. let this keep going. I have no problem with Jade just like crushing people for a while.
Hey, and like you said, like you make the Goldberg comparison. Okay, well that's a Jade match. So if someone's going to complain that she was on TV for 14 seconds, you know, like who cares? She could literally be on every show every week. If she's on the show for 2 minutes, she's not taking anything away from anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's not taking anything away from anybody, and she's getting better every single week. Like even the Goldberg comparison, like even the Goldberg comparison, you were never Goldberg or Warrior or any of the people who've had this sort of, you know, show up, wreck everybody, and leave type gimmick. Brock Lesnar, even, not that he was undefeated, but his same sort of gimmick, you know, show up, crush everybody, and walk away. None of them have like the interview skills, the mic skills that Jade does. Like Warrior was not cutting a promo like Jade, or Goldberg was not cutting that promo, but Jade can do that. So Jade can, you know, win a 2-minute match and then cut a 2-minute promo and look great. And she's only taking 4 minutes off the show. So there's nothing to be really upset about.
And I'm all in. Excuse the pun. Jade retains, and
we talked about it longer than the match itself was, but we're both very big Jade fans here. So.
We are. I'm because I was not. I'm a reformed Jade. I saw the light. Motor City Machine Guns and Jay Lethal versus FTR and Wardlow. I loved this match. It's obviously, again, we're talking about planting seeds. The seed was planted that we're going to get Motor City Machine Guns and FTR. I mean,
and I feel like that'll be whenever ROH. I think that's going to be an ROH thing. I could see that being like a main match for like whenever the next ROH show is.
And I no problem with that either. So let's go.
I like this match. This is a very small nitpick. They could have chopped like 5 minutes off of it, and it would have been just as good. It was a little long for me. It was fine. Like it was a good match. I have nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't care that it was long, but it could have been a bit shorter, and that would have been fine. But not a problem.
I agree. I hear what you're saying.
I mean, they literally could have just had Wardlow come out and powerbomb Jay Lethal 5 times, and that could have been the match. But
it got to the point where I literally thought he was just going to powerbomb to like the top of the hour. Like Jay Lethal took 1 million.
And like you texted me, how over is he? People were upset that like we'll get into this more. People were upset that after Wardlow's big moment about MJF, all everyone talked about was MJF's leaving the company. And they didn't give Wardlow the moment. Like Wardlow got the moment first of all, but Wardlow's also super over. Like we didn't forget about him. This is AEW is doing things differently, and I can understand why a lot of people. Someone replied to me on Twitter a couple days ago saying that they're trying to get an AEW, and one of the problems is they don't know who everybody is, which I get, and they're not on all the time. So like you could watch 3 or 4 shows and not see Wardlow, and then suddenly he shows up and you don't know who he is, or you don't see. So I get that AEW is doing things differently. They have a very big roster, and I think this is a conscious plan of theirs to not have people on all the time outside of like the main couple guys. So Wardlow isn't on as much as you may have thought Wardlow would be on after the storyline with MJF, but that doesn't mean he's not super over, because he is.
Yeah, correct. And Wardlow tweeted out today that I don't know, it was like 2.5 years ago or however long it was. Like
I saw that Wardlow All Out 2019, I think, was his debut.
Oh, okay, yeah. He was like 3 people in the arena knew who I was.
Right.
2 of them were my parents, and 1 was Max, or
Right.
something like that. And,
yeah.
And then he said, last night I had 18,000 people chanting my name. Like,
right.
Unreal.
Yeah. And I know it was cheesy, but I loved Dax's daughter coming out at the end.
It was so great.
It was
so
great. Good moment.
Great.
And it is setting up an FTR Motor City Machine Guns match, which will be an excellent match.
Oh,
so
yes, it will.
Mission accomplished there as well. Good job. All Out to me, All Out was a little interesting this year. All Out because it is their quote unquote WrestleMania sort of.
Yes.
But it seemed like they started a lot of storylines or continued a lot of storylines, not so much ended storylines.
Yeah, I
which I like because wrestling doesn't have an end, right? So you need to keep things going. So it makes sense. But something I noticed.
We also, I almost forgot. I almost skipped right over it. Samoa Joe returns.
Yes, almost forgot about that as well.
So obviously he's not done with Jay Lethal either,
right?
Or I literally just thought of this right now. Do we see Joe versus Satnam? And I'm being serious.
Yeah, I was thinking we have to see either Wardlow or Joe because these feuds are going long. Like I like Jay Lethal as a wrestler, but like his feuds are going pretty long with both Samoa Joe and with Wardlow. Like they're going for a while, and he's a top tier guy, but he's not Chris Jericho or CM Punk or Jon Moxley. So it's a little strange that he has these like overextended feuds.
Correct.
So I feel like it's to get Satnam Singh ready, and maybe he's not quite there yet, so they're stretching it out. Like I think we're going to get Satnam Singh versus Joe or Satnam Singh versus Wardlow. Like I think one or both of those things is the plan.
And I'm all about it because I think it'll be great. It'll be great for Satnam for sure.
Yeah, like if it's physically possible for Wardlow to powerbomb him, I just want to see it. Like they don't have to have a match; they can just do that.
True. Yeah. It would be interesting. I'm sure he could. I mean,
but it might be Samoa Joe, which also I want to see.
Yeah, let it happen. Had another surprise. There were a lot of curveballs thrown our way.
Yes.
Did not expect the outcome of the next match. Absolute Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs. This match was special, and I wrote that down before anyone even came to the ring.
Their entrances were excellent too.
Oh, they were so good. Hobbs needs to use Cody Vader. He needs to. Just coming up, just in that kneeling position, just coming up through the floor would be sick.
Yeah.
Or just have his head pop up. That would be great. That would be wonderful too. And
just the cameras kind of focus on it for a little bit. Yeah.
I forgot about that till that very second. This storyline, I know we've been talking about storylines here, but wrestling changed last night. Literally, the whole industry changed last night. Stories are deep, and this Starks Hobbs thing. I mean, they were boys from the beginning of Team Taz. They were when Team Taz went heel, it was Hobbs who attacked Brian Cage.
Right. And it's not over like this, even though it was a very clean Hobbs win, which I was very surprised by.
Very surprised.
But it's not over. This is going somewhere. This is going to be Ricky Starks, rebuilding himself, or he's had a couple of losses and he has to get his, groove back or something. There's going to be something to this, and it's going to be fun to watch.
And my guess is Ricky's he's gonna blame QT, and Hobbs is just gonna let it play out. Like, okay, well, I'll let them fight.
Right. That makes sense.
Because QT had to get his 2 cents in on Rampage, and he lost, but softened him up for Hobbs. Like,
they could do Ricky Starks goes through the factory, like he beats all of them like one by one, like in individual matches, like every week he faces one of them.
That would be sick. And again, that match was literally only about 4 minutes long, and we're getting on to that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by that, but I want to see where it goes. Like it's going to go somewhere. This isn't the end. They're not burying Ricky Starks. I know the internet and no one. to their credit, I didn't see anyone say that like, oh, they're burying him, which is like an internet thing that anytime someone loses a match, they're getting buried. I didn't see any of that. So people have some trust that this is going to go somewhere, which I like.
I agree.
And it is.
And it also legitimizes Powerhouse Hobbs. Like,
yes.
Sometimes the person losing, they lose for a reason.
Yes.
And that makes Hobbs look insanely strong. Like,
yes. And Ricky can have a good storyline coming out of this, and it makes Hobbs look good. I was slightly worried. Yes. I think I mentioned it last week or the week before. I was slightly worried if Hobbs lost that he would kind of just be like,
yes,
done with Ricky Starks, but then what does he do, right? But now it's going to go somewhere, and good for both of them.
Good for both of them, 100%.
And Team Taz, I mean, I like Taz mentioning the history of Team Taz, kind of.
Correct.
And you're thinking, it did its job. I mean, it got Ricky Starks over, it got Hobbs over, Hook, it got Hook over. Also, Brian Cage was there. It was it was great.
I think it's funny that we make this joke now, like every week, but like that just puts something in perspective that like Danhausen and Hook had a more successful quote unquote Team Taz run than Brian Cage, and Cage was in it for like a year and a
half. That's great. I love that. I hope Brian Cage leans into it. Like, I hope he's cool with it. And his thing is kind of just like, no one knows why I'm here, and neither do I.
like, who the hell's that guy? I don't know. Just shows up every week.
It's great.
Now, see, that would be the sickest gimmick.
Yeah.
If they leaned into it that hard.
Have you ever seen like the movie Office Space, where there's that one guy who just keeps getting paid, and he'd been fired years ago, but no one stopped paying him, so he just keeps coming to work.
Yeah. Like, dude, do you even work here? I think like
they keep paying me, so I guess I work here.
Right? Yeah, I keep getting checks signed by Tony Khan. I don't know. Quite possibly the match of the night, maybe match of the year,
and the crowd of the night for sure.
Crowd of the night. Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaim, and I picked this up only from Swerve in the media scrum. Let's give Tony Khan and AEW credit. This was probably one of a handful of times that there was a full African American conglomerate in the ring,
including the referee.
Awesome. Including the referee.
Excellent job.
And
that's not to say that it shouldn't be something that we have to mention. Like, it should be a thing that happens all the time.
Correct.
But it's good that it did.
It's good that it did, and amazing.
You don't see that sort of crowd reaction for a tag team, and a pretty young tag team to boot. I mentioned it was like the New Age Outlaws when they first came on the scene. They kind of showed up out of nowhere and were like they were nobodies who worked their way up into like very big fan favorites. And it's fun that Billy Gunn is with the Acclaim now, because I feel like Tony Khan kind of realized that at some point that they were kind of building their rep up in a similar way, and it's great. Like, I love that the Acclaim. Everyone loves the Acclaim.
Everyone loves the Acclaim,
and it's true. I thought this yesterday. They've been showing up for, I don't know how long have they been in AEW, like 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
They've been showing up for weeks in, weeks out for years, saying everyone loves the Acclaimed until everyone loved the Acclaimed. Like, now it worked. Like, they just kept saying it, and then it happened.
So it's like speaking it to existence, brother.
That's right. They manifested it. They just kept saying everyone loves the Acclaim until they had 10,000 people screaming about scissoring.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say the "You Can't Scissor" chant. I was dying. It was amazing.
The scissoring thing is the dumbest, most fun, coolest thing in wrestling, and it's so dumb. But it's so dumb. It's so fun. I love it.
and that all started way back on Dark, because they used to make their fingers like they would put A's? Them like they were A's. Yeah. So Bowens would try to be like all serious and go up to the camera and do it, and Caster would be like, to be funny, would like troll him and just scissor him underneath and go like with his like motorboat with his mouth. And
I love that it started on dark. Like I love that they built it up like organically through, the YouTube shows.
Yeah.
And now they're where they are. Do you think they should have won?
Last night, yes, I did. But I see what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
The media scrum kind of gave us a little peek into the future. So, but at the time I thought yes, but they're going to get their moment.
And I liked the way when they booked this match, I was pretty sure Swerve and Our Glory was going to win. Like I was like 90% sure that they were going to win. But the way they booked it and the way I don't know if they called an audible in the ring. People talking about calling audibles, which, by the way, press comments, dumbest question ever. Should you have called terrible,
dumbest question,
terrible question. I don't know who that was, but terrible question. But I don't know if they like Swerve and Keith Lee heard the crowd reaction and decided they were going to play kind of a more heelish role and go after Bowen's knee. Like I think they probably did, and they made a call that that's what they were going to do.
Yep.
But I liked it because they're the champions and they're the pretty clear favorites in this match. But because of the crowd and because of the way the match unfolded, they felt like they were the underdogs. Like they felt like they were battling back from something.
Yes.
They felt like they had something to, like Swerve mentioned it in the press conference. Like they felt like they had something to prove. Like they had to win this match. And it made it so much more important than when they had booked it, 2 weeks ago. And it kind of just seemed like a match.
Yeah. It was the selling of the knee by Bowens.
Yeah.
Honestly, Bowens and Caster, if you want to say outshined Keith Lee and Swerve, like the crowd was 1,000% behind them. I don't want to say they outworked them. They didn't, but they 100% had the crowd on their side.
And the thing with the knee was, I don't know if they just played into it because of how the crowd reacted or not, like I said, but the thing with the knee worked because, last week or whatever, Swerve pointed out,
right?
Oh, Bowens, you let your team down when your body, like it played into that. And I don't know if that was a happy accident or if they meant to do it or what, but and give Swerve and Keith Lee credit for probably I'm assuming this is what happened, for probably realizing that the crowd was against them.
Yeah. For sure.
And not codying it and trying to be a face when no one wants you to be a face. Like they realize, in this show on this night, we're going to be the heels. And they're not heels. They're not heels forever. They're not on Wednesday on Dynamite. They're probably not heels. They're going to be themselves again. But they realized on that show on that night, they should be heels. And they did it perfectly.
And yes. Oh, it was so good.
And one day the Acclaimed are going to win the titles, and hopefully they don't put it off for too long because you want to catch this feeling while it's here. But
I think we're going to get him at Arthur Ashe in front of 20.
And that's going to be going to be a reaction.
And that is going to be a reaction. Unless they see turning Swerve and Our Glory heel, because turning them heel in front of 20,000.
Also true.
Would be amazing too.
But this match exceeded every expectation I had for this match. I thought, I like all the guys in it. I thought it'd be a good match, but they really had no story. They really had nothing, but they did such a good job to the point where it was this or the trios match was match of the night.
And it's like those moments like back in the day on the old Attitude Era WWF shows when nobody knew what a TLC match was or how 4 tag teams could have a ladder match at the same time. Like you didn't know what you had until you saw it. And this was one of those matches. Once you saw it, you're like, son of a...
Yeah, 100%. 100%. This they caught something. I mean, the crowd obviously mattered. Like the crowd helped 100%, a lot.
100%.
But all 4 guys realized what was happening and
they made the magic. 100%.
And made it better because of what they realized. I don't even know how to present it properly. They didn't have the match they would have had in an empty arena. They had a different match because of the crowd. But all 4 of them kind of realized that, okay, we're going to have this match and it's going to work out better because of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, totally. And I know
and how cool is it from the Acclaim sorry to cut you off.
You're fine.
The Acclaimed, when they started coming up in AEW, they were empty. Like it was early pandemic. Like there was no one there. Correct. There was either some wrestlers in the crowd or 100 people to go from that to 10,000 people cheering for them.
Yeah. And
like Swerve and Keith Lee have had that before, especially Keith Lee. I mean, he was in WWE. Yes. He's been in front of massive crowds, but like the Acclaimed haven't had that many people all with them at once before. So good for them.
Great for them. And like I said, we've talked about it before, but can you imagine thinking Swerve and Keith Lee are not an asset to your company?
I know.
Like, come on.
I know. And not to belabor the point, but you asked Swerve. I think they kind of alluded to it in the press conference, and someone asked Swerve on Twitter, like, "Oh, now that the management over there is different, are you going to go back?" He's like, "No, I'm happy. Like this is," and you can tell, like this is what he wants to do. Like he's maybe now he'd get a better shot and he'd be doing something, but like why take the maybe when you're happy with what you're with?
Yeah,
now? That's what I don't. Again, I always go on tangents, but I understand the thinking that, now that Vince McMahon, not McMahon because they still run it, but now that Vince McMahon is no longer doing creative, a lot of guys who didn't have a shot there before or who got ridiculously let go for the stupidest reasons, maybe they'd have a shot, and maybe they would. Maybe a lot of guys, who either left WWE or who were let go from WWE will have a better shot in the new WWE. Like that's entirely possible. But if you're happy with what you have in AEW, why would you take the even if there's a 50%, even if there's an 80% chance of it being great over there, like there's still a chance that it's not, and now you've gave up what you enjoyed. Keith Lee and Swerve seem to be enjoying themselves, and why would they? I mean, obviously money, but why would you take the chance that maybe it's not changed? You don't know, right? So
that and with that money though comes that schedule. Where else are you gonna fly out of your house on Tuesday, work Wednesday, fly home Thursday?
Yeah, I think in the post show press conference, Jericho was talking about when he goes on tour with his band. He goes, "We go on tour, and I come back Tuesday, go to Dynamite Wednesday, and then go back on
tour."
You can do that because you only have to be there for a day, right? Maybe two, depending on the week, right?
Right. But, yeah, if they start doing live rampages, like the rumor is, like you'd have to work 2 days a week. Oh no!
Right. But yeah, Swerve and Keith Lee. I didn't see them as being a tag team when they showed up. I didn't think that they were. I thought they'd both be singles guys, but they're doing a great job with it. Excellent job, and an excellent job by the Acclaimed. Great job all around.
Great job all around. Great match, and the Acclaimed will be rewarded.
Yes.
The women's interim title match: Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Jamie Hayter, Toni Storm. I saw Jamie Hayter winning this. I think Jamie Hayter had the best look of the night.
I think the crowd wanted Jamie Hayter to win. You could tell by their reactions they wanted her to win. Again, I felt bad for them because the women had to follow a match that the crowd. First of all, the crowd would have been tired even if the Acclaimed had won that match. Like you can't cheer for 4 hours, and it's like you get tired.
Exactly.
But the fact that the Acclaimed didn't win, you're right. But yesterday, I thought they definitely should. Now I can see why they didn't, and it makes perfect sense. Yeah. But in the moment, you were like, "Aw," and that it did kind of bring it down a little bit. And I joked yesterday, if Britt Baker had won, how the crowd would have just walked out of the building.
Everybody would have just left.
We're done. I don't care if the CM Punk is up next. I'm leaving.
Well, Britt did have her Pittsburgh gear on, so awesome. Britt did us well.
And not the first Pittsburgh Penguins reference of the not the last Pittsburgh reference Pittsburgh reference of the night. We will get to that.
I have a beef right now. There's certain people you don't talk about in the world, and one of them was talked about. The Shida getting helped to the back when she was injured during the match and then coming back with the 2 kendo sticks.
That was great.
That was wonderful. That was taken right out of the Monday Night Wars book.
Right. Yeah, I could see that happening in like a Heart Foundation match or something like.
Yeah. Definitely. It was so good. And it gave you a little bit of it mixed things up. It turned it into a 3-way for a minute,
right? And then you got to have Britt and Jamie Hayter work together for a bit, and then fall out.
And then fall out. Yeah, that's exactly what it's set up. It's set the wedge going between those two. Toni Storm with the win. She's going to be a great interim champion. She already started talking on Rosa, which I like.
Yep.
She also agreed with Mr. Moxley. She's not going to use the I word, as she said. Right. So as she said, until Rosa takes it off of her, she's the champion. That's great.
Right. Yeah, and it sets up a lot. It sets up obviously a Thunder Rosa Toni Storm match in the future, but it also sets up a really good Britt Baker Jamie Hayter thing that's going to happen.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to be a quick fallout or a slow fallout, but there is going to be a fallout, and it's going to be good.
Yes, and it finally, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it gets Britt a program that doesn't involve a belt.
Yes.
And it's great.
And it gets the women a program that doesn't involve a belt, because that's a knock against AEW, and I agree with that knock against it. Like, women can have storylines that don't involve a title, just like men can, and they have enough of them now. There's a large enough women's roster and a good enough women's roster that they can have 3 or 4 feuds going on at once. So, and it's a feud, and I don't want to sound woke in this or anything, but it's a feud that doesn't involve a guy. Which is my knock about the Ty Conti, Ty Mello stuff and the Ruby Soho stuff. Like, they have a guy with them. They're not, like in the case of Ruby, it's not like a love interest guy, but it's she's with Ortiz or Eddie. Her storyline is tied to a male wrestler, and this one isn't. This is just Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Like, they have their own history, they have their own thing, and they have nothing to do with anyone else on the roster other than themselves. And I like it.
It's great.
And it's going to be a good match, a good series of matches, I'm assuming.
It is. Yes, it is going to be. Oh, it's going to be so good. Christian versus Jungle Boy. I'm really curious on your opinion on this.
In retrospect, now we know I think that Christian is injured. So the match makes even more sense. But at the time, I liked it, even without knowing Christian was injured.
I was right there with you.
Heel Luchasaurus is wonderful. I love Heel Luchasaurus. I'm so glad he's still around.
When he did the Jungle Boy's back, when he slammed him on the stage, that looked terrible.
Yeah, you could see, like, they pointed it out, but you could see, like, the marks from the steel across his back.
Yeah, that sucked.
And we should have seen it coming, because Luchasaurus, even though he turned back against Christian and rejoined Jungle Boy, he never attacked Christian. He never hurt Christian.
Exactly.
Someone else got in the way, or he couldn't catch him in time. Like, you should have seen it coming, but we didn't really. And Christian's going to have he's injured, but he's not injured enough that he can't be on TV. So he's going to obviously still be on TV.
Yeah.
He's going to have a really good explanation for how he worked Jungle Boy, because that's his thing. Working everyone. And Heel Luchasaurus is. I love Heel Luchasaurus. Like, so good.
It's the best. It is so good. It is the best.
And we're gonna get what I wanted. I think there's probably gonna be like a cage or something between Christian and Jungle Boy one day that doesn't allow Luchasaurus interference, and they're gonna have like the blood feud match that we want them to have.
Yes.
And I also really like, people knock JR for this, but he's been saying it since the first Dynamite, I think. He's been calling him Jungle Jack Perry or Jungle Boy Jack Perry. And people knocked him for it, being like, that's not his name. His name is Jungle Boy. Jack Perry is his real name, not his stage name. And JR's point was, he can't be Jungle Boy forever.
Right.
Like, he eventually, it's like Sidney Crosby. He can't be Sid the Kid. He's 35 years old or whatever, right? Like, you can't do that. So eventually he's going to be a point where he can't be Jungle Boy anymore, or it's going to sound ridiculous. And I think we're at that point, and the fact that they were calling him, this is a perfect way to turn him into Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus just Jungle Boy, because it's a reason for it too. They're not just changing his name, not to knock WWE, but they're not just changing his name for the sake of changing his name.
For the sake,
They explained it. Like, they explained that he's, taking this personally, and he's not taking it as Jungle Boy. He's taking it as Jack Perry. And it suits him. Jungle Boy Jack Perry or Jungle Jack Perry eventually is a good ring name, and it fits him well.
And it's funny that you brought that up. In the Young Bucks book, that their biggest regret in wrestling is calling themselves the Young Bucks.
Right.
They were like, we should have just went with the Bucks because there's going to be a time when we're old.
When you can't be the Young Bucks anymore. Yeah.
Correct.
You'll be like 45.
Right. Right. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I feel like CM Punk kind of regrets the CM not really meaning anything because
yeah, you're totally right.
It kind of boxes you in there.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially like those guys hear that 850 million times a day. They hear their name or their ring name. Like it would have to get old. Like, I don't know how old Jungle Boy is. He's in his 20s, but
he's like 25 or 26. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in 10 years, like a 35-year-old man called Jungle Boy.
Right.
Come on. Like,
yeah. Like it can't work forever. And this is a perfect transition out of it. And everyone knows his real name because his dad is Luke Perry.
Yes.
So like everybody knows. It's not like he's just some random indie wrestler. Like everyone knows who he is.
Yes.
So it makes sense for him to use his real name.
And I can't wait for Christian's promo
it's going to be so good.
Explain all of this.
It's going to be so good.
So good.
And it's going to prolong it perfectly because Christian's injured and now Jungle Boy can be, quote unquote injured. And so he won't be around for a while. So Christian can just cut promos, which he seems to be healthy enough to do. And then one day Jungle Boy will come back and it'll be great.
Yeah. Oh, and Christian's going to like play it up like how he destroyed it. Oh, yeah. Like didn't even touch him except for the pin. Oh,
yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
It felt like you mentioned before, it felt like an Attitude Era thing and I understand the health reason. Christian's clearly healthy enough to be in the ring. He's just not healthy enough to have a long match, but he's healthy enough.
Right.
So I understand that sometimes you're too injured to be in the ring and you shouldn't be. Like you should, if you're too injured to be in the ring, you shouldn't be in the ring. No one's saying that you should be. But it felt very like when Steve Austin broke his neck, but they still wanted him to show up and do stuff. So he would just show up and, throw the Rock's belt in a river.
Right.
And that's it because he couldn't wrestle. So he did some other stuff. It felt like that, like just because he's hurt his arm, he can still do a lot of other things. So we're going to go with that.
Just deal with
what you have.
Yep. And it was great. And it was perfect. And like the explanation is going to be the icing on the cake.
Oh yeah.
Jericho, Danielson, Regal on commentary. I was blown away by this match. Chris Jericho surprised me.
This was great match, great wrestling. You're right. Yes. Chris Jericho surprised me because you obviously know Bryan Danielson is excellent in the ring. And no, that's not taking anything away from Jericho. Like everyone knows, correct. I mean, he's been wrestling for, however long, 25 years. So obviously he's good in the ring too, but he's not Bryan Danielson, or so we thought. But he hung really well with Bryan Danielson and did a really good, and that's not kind of be condescending to Jericho. Like I think he'd be the first one to say he's not the technical wrestler that Bryan Danielson is.
Yeah, right.
But he can be, like he can do it. So good match.
And it was wonderful. The ending was like I know we keep using the word perfect, but the way that these situations were concluded, there was a lot of things that were damn near perfect.
Yeah, I was really surprised that Jericho won in the moment. Like it's another one of those things where in the moment I was annoyed. I was upset that he won because I was just like, no, Danielson should win. Like Jericho seems to win all the big matches, but I know that's also what they're going for, is that Jericho, was an older guy and but like he's smarmy and he manages to get these wins when you don't think he should get these wins, and it's going somewhere. It's going somewhere with Daniel Garcia, and this feud isn't over, and it's going to go somewhere. So it does make sense. I did feel a little bit, and I felt this way about the Danielson Moxley match when the BCC formed, when Regal showed up. I don't remember what pay-per-view that was. I felt the same way there. Great match. If that match had come on at 9:00, I would have liked it more. I feel like this was a very technical match, and it came late in the show, which it should have. I mean, they're big stars, but it came late in the show to the point where I was a little tired, and it takes a little bit more to appreciate a 10. If this had been, the Young Bucks, I feel like you can watch the Young Bucks when you're tired because they get you energized. They get you like, whereas this was sort of a not slow, but like when was it Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb had a similar issue. Great technical match, but it came late in the show to the point where the crowd's a little bit down, like the crowd's a little bit out of it, and you're a little tired. And if it had been on an hour earlier, I think I would have liked it a lot more. Not that I didn't like it, but I feel like I would have liked it a lot more.
I totally see where you're coming from. I agree with you. And
I don't want to take a knock at the length of AEW pay-per-views, because like if you're spending money on a pay-per-view, like I'm not upset that they're long. I'm never upset that the shows are long. Like I entertain all the way through. It felt like maybe they could have positioned this a little better.
Agreed. So I mean, everybody obviously knows the whole Daniel Garcia thing is going to come to a head on Wednesday. In his hometown, he's versing Wheeler Yuta for the Ring of Honor Pure title. I think he wins because it puts it perfectly. Like, it's the pure title,
right?
It's a wrestling title,
right?
So the crowd's going to be chanting, "You're a wrestler" the whole time.
And I love Jericho's explanation. Like we've mentioned before, when you have a little argument with your friends, you don't never speak to them again. In most cases. I like that he has a little issue with Daniel Garcia, and he said, I think you're going to win. I want you to win, but I'm just not going to be there. And so that's perfect. Like, he's not turning on him. He's not against him, but he's just like, I'm kind of annoyed at you right now. So I'm not going to be there when you have your match, but I hope you win. It was great.
And he's not going to be there, but obviously that sets up, who is going to be there when he wins.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
This has been before I forget. I loved, and by loved, I thought it was really dumb. Bryan Danielson's song. I like this. I like the song when it's not sung live, like as a theme song. I like it.
That was terrible.
And it was extra terrible because the whole thing was like Jericho is a sports entertainer and Bryan Danielson is like a straight wrestler.
Right.
And he's like the straight, serious professional wrestler. And like, oh, by the way, here's this guy you've probably never heard of who's going to spend 2 minutes singing a song kind of poorly.
Yeah.
Didn't fit. Like, it didn't fit his character. It didn't fit the moment. It didn't sound particularly good. Like, it was so weird that they did that.
This is not a joke. When the guy was first on the screen, I 100% out of the corner of my eye, I thought it was Slim J. And he was going to, I swear to God, like, that's not a joke.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, the Trustbusters are coming out. And then he starts singing. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible.
And you could tell Danielson coming out being like, this is awkward. This is not working. Like,
yeah.
This is not Motorhead playing Triple H to the ring, or even like Rancid. Sorry, Rancid, when they played Ruby Soho. Like, that worked. Like, people were into that. This did not work.
I didn't even know. Like, I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a studio musician who recorded that. I didn't know that it was like a real person. It was like when they put his name on the screen. Like, I don't know a lot about pop music. I didn't know who that was.
I remember when his theme came out. I don't even think, like, I'm old, right? So maybe he's famous. I don't know. But I remember when his song came out, hearing it and thinking, I like this song. Like, it's a cool theme song for Bryan Danielson. And I looked up the guy on Spotify to see, like, he doesn't have very many. It's not even like he's particular. I don't think he has a lot of other songs. I don't even think he's famous. Like, maybe he is. Maybe he's just not on Spotify and he's like a underground. Like, maybe he's a big deal to like 20-year-olds, right? But like, I don't even think he's famous. I think he's just some guy, right? Well, like, what he looked. I didn't know who Action Bronson was, but he did Hook's theme, and I looked him up, and he has a bunch of other songs, and he's a legitimate, like, well-known artist. I'm just an old man, but I don't think this guy is. I think he's just like, he's kind of a guy.
Unreal. Well,
very weird. And especially because if it had been Jericho having like a musician play him,
it would have been perfect, especially because it flopped.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so much better if he was singing Jericho's song.
But it made absolutely no sense for Daniel.
Correct.
None whatsoever.
Correct. I was very surprised that this next match was this high on the card. House of Black versus Miro, Sting, and Darby.
Yes.
The entrance was...
Oh yeah, the House of Black entrance, so good.
The House of Black entrance. I honestly think the House of Black entrance is the greatest entrance in professional wrestling right now.
Yeah.
If it's over, it's going to be sad, but I personally don't think it is. But we'll get to that in a second. This entrance was special. It was good, so good,
and it really sets them apart as like a team. Like they're. You know, it's something different when they show up.
Yeah, 1,000%. Brody King is a monster. Malachi Black is the mastermind, and Buddy Matthews is just incredible in the ring. So, like, I really hope whatever's going on with Malachi, I hope they just give him some time off and he sorts through it, because he's special.
Yeah,
and this group is special. Like, this group is.
And I do want to see. I'd be ashamed if it was over, because I want to see what happens with Julia Hart, because she hasn't really done much other than be Julia Hart, but in black. So correct. I want to see where that's going. Like, I want to see the House of Black do more things. So I hope they get a chance to.
And just going back to what we were saying with Christian, and again, I'm not speaking for Malachi. This would be like my personal best case scenario. If his mental health is good enough for him to just keep filming and recording stuff at his house, like he could totally lead the House of Black, like, once a month, give him 3 minutes and just have him send video clips in that they can edit together.
And then he wouldn't have to, maybe he needs time to, like, you know, just be by himself or be with his family or be at home or whatever, and he can do that.
Yeah. And, you know, just 3 minutes a month or something, or, you know, or like just little, like,
even just like a voiceover. Like, he doesn't even need to be on camera. Like, he can just do a voiceover.
Say,
like,
do like, yes, exactly.
But we'll see what happens. But we obviously wish him well and hope that he's
100%.
His health and his well-being is clearly more important, but
100%.
But professionally, we also really like what he's doing.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get to. Brody King is an animal.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just a large human being that moves like... Jim Ross has said this for years, to put people over. That is a big athletic man.
Yes.
And Jim Ross was never kidding when he said that. Like, all those people in WWF and all those years, way better athletes than I ever have been.
Right.
So that's not like when he was putting them over just with his voice.
Right.
But Brody King is legit scary with how good he moves in the ring. Like,
I knew nothing of him, but I can see him being like a main event top tier guy.
He was Ring of Honor's champion when they went under.
Okay.
I would love to see him be some sort of champion in AEW, which he totally could be. Great match through and through.
And I think we need to take. I want to take a moment here to once again appreciate Sting, because what is he?
It's what I was just going to get with.
62, I believe Sting is.
Yes.
These days.
Yes.
What a guy!
With the
What, like, this is the run that he 63. Mm-hmm. This is the run that
63. There you go.
That he should be having, and
everything
about it is great. And when Sting no sells you, you're not mad. Like, it's Sting, right? Yeah. Like, he should be. And I I know that maybe we don't know his whole. I came out recently. I think Darby said that in Sting's original contract, he could only do cinematic matches. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh wow, I did not see that.
When
That's
Sting
cool.
first signed with AEW, it was only for cinematic matches because he wasn't allowed, like medically, to do anything other than cinematic matches. And Darby, the way Darby told it is Sting is at a ring at his house, and for that match against Team Taz, they went to the ring in Sting's house and they practiced, their parts of the match. And he worked out with Sting and whatever. But first of all, how cool is that?
I was just thinking that's
to
the
go to
coolest
Sting
story ever.
To go to Sting's house and practice a wrestling match, like that's amazing. Like
in his own personal ring.
If you're Darby Allin and like retired there, that's
great.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if the next day you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But anyway, during those training sessions, Darby was like, you can do that. Like you can still wrestle. Like you're doing this. And then he like got checked out more and was like, because then he wanted to. At first he didn't want to. He was like, I can't. I can't. But he did, and he obviously is where he is now. And I want to see, even if it's 5 minutes long, I want Sting to have a singles match in AEW. I don't care who it's against. I don't care what happens. Ooh. I want one match, even if it's a 5-minute match. Do a short match. I want him to have one singles match against someone, just to have it. Just to have a singles match, and then he can go back to whatever he wants to do. I want to see it.
And I think you're going to get it. You're going to have to.
And he hasn't lost yet, from what we can tell. I don't think Sting's ever lost a match in AW. So,
good call.
So I want to see one singles match. I don't know who. Like obviously, someone experienced, someone they trust, someone who isn't going to powerbomb him into the corner.
Right.
And not that I'm blaming Seth Rollins for that, but.
But you're right.
Knowing Sting's situation now, you're not going to powerbomb into the corner.
Right.
But somebody who's, an experienced guy that they trust, or maybe not that experienced, but someone who they still trust. And I want to see him have a one-on-one, even if it's a 5-minute match where he gets in, 2 minutes of offense. I want to see it.
That'd be sick. I'm saying, as you were saying all that, I was just going through my head on who I'd like to see him face.
Yeah.
You know who I'd like to see him face? And it would be perfect, and the trust would be there. Jay Lethal.
Yeah, and be a good. I mean, he wrestled arguably a decent match with Ric Flair. So
who's 345 years old. So
and clearly in worse physical shape than Sting.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, totally. Oh, Jay Lethal versus Sting. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, they could do it.
You know damn well when Sting calls it quits, he's going to tell Tony Khan, and they'll probably have like a pay-per-view for him. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't see how they wouldn't. Like
exactly,
they should. Like Sting deserves it.
Yeah, they're not going to have a special. Well, they probably will have a special week. It'll probably be a special Dynamite, a special Rampage, and then like a farewell to Sting pay-per-view week or something.
And not to gush about him, but like he deserves this. This is the 100%. Run that this is the run he should have had. The way WCW shut down, he didn't get an ending. Then he was in TNA, which was, I mean, he did fine in TNA, but it's TNA. It's not the same level. And then let's not speak of what happened in WWE.
That was so disappointing.
So he's never had, he's never got the thanks or the acclaim that he deserves. And a lot of that, I think, is because of the type of guy he is. Like, he's not a guy who puts himself over. He's not a guy who demands main events or demands, big pomp and circumstance when he's wrestling. He seems like kind of down to earth guy who just like, I remember Scott Hall talking about that match. Another tangent. Scott Hall talking about that match with Triple H, and Scott Hall, obviously friends with Triple H, but also knows Sting really well, and he helped him create the Crow character, and they have a close, at least working relationship, or had. And I remember Scott Hall saying, like, you don't understand, Sting, like what you're getting into with, like, you're not a political guy, and you don't know what's going to happen to you when you go to, like, you don't understand what's going to happen to you when you're dealing with Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon. Like, they politic in a way that Sting doesn't. Like, Sting kind of just like shows up, wrestles, and does a good job, and then leaves. Right? He's not.
Yeah, like you could.
he's not booking himself. He's not pushing himself.
Right.
He's not backstage, trying to get a better spot on the card, right? He like does his job and wants to do good at that, but that's what he wants to do. Like, he's not a political guy. And I think that's why he hasn't got the acclaim that a lot of other guys get at his level, because he hasn't pushed for it, and he hasn't asked for it, and he hasn't, demanded it. But I think he should get it, and he is getting it. And you're right. I think they are going to do something special for him, whether he wants it or not.
Exactly.
Like, they're going to do something for him.
Because, I mean, and, not to give WWE some credit, I mean, Vince didn't even know who Sting was.
That if anyone doesn't know, Road Dogg on a podcast said that when they hired Sting, Vince had been, and I don't even know if this can possibly be true.
There's no way it has. There's no way it's true.
But anyway. He hired Sting because he was big in WCW and didn't know who anything about him.
I mean, but then again, I could totally see.
I could totally see it. I could totally see if it's only watching WWE, WWF, and not watching anything else because he thinks it's not good enough or whatever, and not knowing who Sting was. I can totally see it.
Yeah,
and it makes that makes perfect sense as to why they had the end. Again, this is a tangent, but why they had the NWO come to help Sting, which anyone who'd spent more than 10 minutes learning about Sting would know that makes no sense.
Exactly.
But yes. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the Sting tangent, but he had a great match, and it was great. And
I loved the twist with the mist. That was so good.
Excellent. I loved it too. That was great.
It was so good.
And Miro, who we didn't even mention, did a great job too.
Oh, Miro was. Everybody in this match did a great match. I
was surprised where it was on the card too, but it deserves it. Like, all the guys in it deserve, a top spot on the card. They all did a great job. And
like we said, if this was a farewell or see you in a little bit, maybe not a total farewell. If people don't know, after the match, at the top of the ramp, the House of Black was given a little moment, and they were hugging, and Julia was apparently a little emotional, and Malachi took a bow and blew a kiss to the crowd, and then they went backstage. So if it is the end, Malachi Black, thank you, because the House of Black is amazing. Thank you for bringing it. If it's just a see you later, get yourself better, my friend, and we'll see you, because that's way more important than wrestling.
Yeah, and I mean, we're obviously
my entertainment,
and we're obviously AEW fans, and by the number of shots we take at WWE, you can tell we don't watch their show.
Correct.
But I mean, if he is in a point where he feels like what he needs to get better, or to feel good about himself, or to feel positive about himself, if he needs to leave and go work for WWE, like if he thinks, I missed my spot there, and now that there's different people there, like I want that spot, like I want to give it a shot, or his wife is there, maybe he wants to be, whatever reason, maybe he wants to be in WWE, maybe he does, I don't know, we don't know him. But if he does, and we love AEW, but if that's what he needs to do, I mean, go do it, do whatever you need to do, like
1000%.
This is your life, and you get to, obviously, if there's a thing you want to do and you have the option to do it, whatever it is, whether it's take time away, whether it's leave wrestling, whether it's work for another company, whatever it is, like, it's obviously more important than us wanting to see you wrestle.
Exactly. And going back to what we talked about it a million times when Cody left, like, I did in AEW, but Cody works better in WWE.
Yes, definitely.
Even if Cody went there and flopped, I wouldn't care. Go. You get one chance at life.
Right.
If someone's going to offer you 3 times the amount of money that you were making doing the same thing.
Yeah. Or if that's just a thing you want to do. Like, if you're a kid and you grew up and all you wanted to do was wrestle at WrestleMania, which I'm for a bunch of wrestlers, I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah.
Like, and if you have that shot, go ahead. Like, I can't blame you. Like, if someone gave me a chance to wrestle at WrestleMania, I would wrestle at WrestleMania. Like, I would immediately do that.
Yeah.
And they would never give me that chance. But if they did, I I would go. Like I would even when Vince was there. If Vince McMahon was like, "Hey, we want you to go to WrestleMania, and you're gonna lose horribly, but we want you to be the." Yep, okay, sure, because it would be cool, right? Like that's what we grew up watching it. That's what you want to do. So if that's what he wants, not to go lose horribly, obviously, but if he feels like what he wants in life is to be a part of another company, or if that's a chance he wants to take, like obviously it's your shot. Like you don't have too many chances to do things like that. Like, so go for it.
Yes, 100%.
And we won't be mad at you. Don't worry.
No,
not at all. I know you're not thinking of us or any fans. Like I know he shouldn't make this decision based on what the fans think or anything, but I mean the fans won't be mad at you. Like you'll be supported.
AEW World Championship match. Mox versus Punk. For a main event, not a long match. I was surprised.
No, nobody told the crowd that they killed the storyline by having the match a couple weeks ago, because the crowd seemed to enjoy it. And what I would heard is that they killed all interest in the match by having it on Dynamite a couple weeks ago. But apparently no one told the very, very excited crowd and the audience watching that actually you should not be interested in this because it happened once before. Sorry, that was my shot at the internet. I get very annoyed at the internet.
No, that's fine. When I was on the internet today, I was reading what a post made by an indie wrestler whose name escapes me right now. But he said, and I quote because I wrote it down, "The reason that they showed you on Dynamite 2 weeks ago that a match can be lost in 3 minutes, depending on a match can be lost in 3 minutes and not matter who's in the match. All they did was plant that seed in your head, basically, by saying when this match started, it could be 10 seconds, or we could be here for the next hour and a half."
Yeah.
And that never even dawned on me.
When Punk hit the GTS at the beginning, I knew it wasn't over, but there was a little part of me that thought, oh, they might do it again.
Yes.
Like there was a part of me that thought, oh, they're going to end it in like 2 minutes. And I knew that they wouldn't. But the fact that there was even that little bit of thought, like I would not have thought that a month ago. And that's a very good point. Like I didn't think of it. But I would not have thought of that a month ago. But now, because they did it on Dynamite, you thought, it could happen again. Like it could end fast.
And when I was, this is going to transpire into the media scrum that we're going to hit next. My very first note for this match is, excuse my language. No, we'll edit myself. Punk is a effing master. That's the very first thing I like. I don't even think they locked up yet. It's so good. He's a master, and everything is calculated and everything is perfect. And when you're working with someone like Mox, who, of course, you're on the same page. They think alike. They are alike. They did this perfectly. This match.
How well do they work together? Like they're not even
unreal.
not even like in ring chemistry. Like someone like Jericho and Danielson can have a very good, in ring like wrestling match, but just everything around it, like Punk, when the match started, Punk put his injured foot out to be like, oh, I'm giving you my, and Moxley like mocked him by putting his own, like even their little interactions with each other, like when either of them, I think I said this last week, like when either of them come down to the ring, like on the last couple Dynamites where they were just showing up and fighting each other, like when either of them come down, you think, oh man, it's on. Like every single time you see either of them, like they have this feud, and either of them have this like aura around them that like, oh no, this is serious. Like this is big time. They're here, right? Like whether you want to say it's because they're ex-WWE guys or not, and I hate that, but they are so good at making it important. They're so good at making it Like they don't hate each other. Like that they don't hate each other in real life.
Right.
But they seem like they hate each other, right? Like they're good at this. Like they're obviously very, very good at this.
Yes, they are masters of their domain. And the mind games in this match were there were so many little nuances. Like Punk sold his elbow for the entire match, which you could have put that like, oh, okay, well, Mox is going to put him in some like arm hold or an arm bar. Nope, that didn't happen. Like it was,
and even little things like everyone mocks, including me, you mock Jon Moxley for bleeding all the time. He didn't bleed this time, and Punk did.
And Punk did.
Like even that little, and that's on purpose.
Yeah,
like little stuff like that.
Meaning. Like everything in this match had meaning. Just the way that they work, it's flawless and smooth, and everything. When I say everything has meaning, like just for a lame example, if Punk has Mox in a headlock, normally when a guy puts a guy in a headlock, the guy doing the headlock makes the sell, and the other guy will wiggle a little bit, whatever.
Right.
These two, it is, your head's in a vice. You're kicking your feet. You might drop down to a knee. They sell for each other.
And Regal on commentary for this, things like that helps because, or Excalibur or Taz, or like, that's why they're there. I don't remember if Regal was on commentary for this match.
I don't remember write it down, but I can't remember.
but if he wasn't, Taz or Excalibur, like they explain why these moves matter. Like Taz is so good at that too. Like pointing out, this move really hurts. I had that move put on me a bunch of times and I know why it hurts. Like, even like rest holds matter. Like they make it mean something. You're right. The way they sell it, the way they apply it, like it. And I don't think we talked about how they're both former WWE guys, and that's maybe why they seem like big stars, or why they are big stars, like because they, who they are. They've been on TV for a long time. But a lot of the things that they're good at in the ring, I don't think those are WWE things necessarily. I think they've been in a lot of companies over a long period of time. And they've picked up little stuff from a bunch of guys here and there all around on how to, do a headlock better, how to sell better, how to, punch better. Like they've picked up little stuff from everybody and added it. And you can tell that they're both, like I said, very, very good at this.
So good. And let's not forget, Punk wore Danhausen's boots.
Yes.
That's an amazing little fact that we found out after the fact. It's amazing. And Danhausen's tweet about his boots being the AEW World Champion that's my favorite thing that came out today, I think.
And I even want to say, like, the fact that Mox won the first match and legitimized his title reign. First of all, great for Mox. He deserved it. He's done the great he's done. But also that made this match so much more important because yes, it would have been super important if it was AEW champion versus AEW champion in a match. Like obviously that's an important match. Right. But now it's not just that. It's not just, established very good pro wrestler Jon Moxley against established very good pro wrestler CM Punk. It's Jon Moxley who already beat CM Punk pretty easily. And now he looks more dominant because of that. And now Punk has to come back. Now Punk's in his hometown. He has to come back. He has to show that he can do it too.
Yeah.
The initial short match mattered. Like they didn't just do it to pop ratings. Maybe that's part of the reason, but they did it to build the story too.
Yes. Yeah. And it planted that seed of unneeded adversity too. Because like you said, it was like the third move in the match seriously was the GTS. Like it was sick the way they set it up.
And I would say if you had this match without having that first match, now in retrospect, it's pretty obvious CM Punk wins. I mean, it was still kind of obvious CM Punk would win.
Yeah.
But there was a chance he didn't. But I think if you had just said, CM Punk returning to have his first match back in Chicago, like everyone would.
Oh yeah.
He was going to win. Like it.
Yeah.
It made it more intriguing the fact that he didn't win the last time. That you thought, oh, maybe he won't win this time too. Like it was good.
Okay. Well, we'll get to it. Punk wins.
Yes.
Very clean too. No shenanigans. No Tom.
Which what we've learned from the press conference, I think that Tony Khan pointed out, is that Moxley's first clean loss in AEW.
Yes. Yes. So, wow, that's big too. But
because like obviously he lost to Kenny, but he didn't.
Yes,
it wasn't clean. So,
yeah, that was his first like
actual loss. Yeah, it was. This was his first like real
non-heel beat up by multiple
interference.
People.
Yeah.
Lights go out, and we see the.
No, first we hear a voicemail, didn't we?
Oh yeah,
the voicemail was
I forgot about that, because to me the voicemail was unneeded, but made sense. I guess
I liked it,
but well, I'm gonna get to why I didn't.
All right,
because so many people. Well, here I'll tell you why I didn't like it.
Okay,
because it takes 2 seconds.
Sure.
People are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he handed that over," blah 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 blah, and like, well, of course he did, because they had to put that into like some sort of recording software to incorporate it into so it could fade in when the song faded out, and then the song could fade back in. That was a track. That wasn't like live on editing.
Right. Yes.
Which means that there's no way that was a real voicemail either. And the people that
of course,
that, like, Tony Khan recorded video.
Right. Of course.
Like, yes, exactly. Of course.
The
falling for this.
Even just the quality of it would not have been that good if he recorded it off his phone.
Exactly.
We record this podcast on our phones, and we have to like try to make it sound good. So clearly they did better than that.
Yeah. But yeah, you hear that, and again, I thought it was just dumb that they bleeped out the amount of money. Like, come on.
I only think that's dumb now that you mention it, because if it was, it's MJF. Okay, if it was MJF, he's the one who played it. Wouldn't he want the amount of money being known?
Exactly.
That I only realize now, but yeah, that makes sense. The only reason I liked it is because it explained why he was back and why he was in the casino ladder match, because the last time we saw him, he was like cursing out Tony Khan.
Right.
So why would Tony Khan book him in a match?
Right.
And they explained it because he's a big star and he wants his biggest stars on the show. So they explained it, which is the reason I liked it. But
and the voicemail, like it did explain a lot, but it was just like the fact that people thought that like Max handed his phone over and they took the file out, like none of that like that did not happen.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get into people on the internet entertaining me all day here in a second. But the lights go out. You see the reveal. He talks, and I would say about 95% of the people knew who it was, but then he put the scarf on.
Right.
and then my last note is just MJF is back, because I wasn't taking my eyes off the television.
Yeah, that was a cool reveal. The adding on the scarf was really cool. Also, the fact that they cheered, they changed his name, which obviously Tony Khan pointed out, he's a returning wrestler. They always cheer for returning wrestlers. So that doesn't necessarily say anything for going forward. But he's facing CM Punk in Chicago when they cheered for him. So I feel like that's noteworthy.
That's
even
huge.
Even the fact that part of the crowd chanted for Moxley during the match, I felt was noteworthy.
Well, we're going to get into this media scrum, so we might as well just get into the media scrum, because that was, to me, that was bigger than the main event.
Yeah, And people criticize that. I've heard that a knock a lot of, people weren't talking about, no one's talking about MJF anymore because of the media scrum situation. But I don't think that's I don't think that's a problem at all.
No. Well, we just, on this very podcast, we talked about Wardlow and how MJF ruined his night. Well, he's doing pretty good for himself.
Yeah. Like also you can think about more than one thing. Like,
yeah. Yes. But
like I mentioned to you why this feels like the 90s. Like one of the things I was talking to you about it earlier in text. One of my favorite feuds of all time is the Hart Foundation Steve Austin feud. It started off with just Bret and Steve Austin, and then they added in, the Hart Foundation. They added in a bunch of guys. Bret Hart was feuding with Stone Cold Steve Austin at the time, but he was also feuding with Shawn Michaels. But Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin were also feuding with each other, right? Like, so you can have more than one thing happen at a time, and like, I don't know why this only applies to wrestling. When you watch any other TV show, you're not like, well, why is he talking to that character? He was talking to the other character earlier. Like, no, people can do two things, right? Like, it doesn't work with any other show. Or like, you're not watching a sports game, a hockey game or whatever, and being like, why is Pittsburgh playing Washington? I thought they hated Philadelphia. Yes, but they also have another team they're playing against.
Right.
And two things can happen. And because we're talking about their game today, it doesn't mean the next time they play Philadelphia, you're not going to talk about that game, right? Like things can happen at the same time. And you can talk about a press conference, and then when MJF comes on TV, you could talk about MJF. And then when Kenny Omega comes on TV, you can talk about Kenny Omega. Like that's how things work, right? Like it's such a weird. I know we spend a lot of time on the internet, and that's why we have this opinion, I think. But the internet wrestling fan, at least the Twitter wrestling fan, they've become very weird. Like it's very weird how they think that, like, oh, MJF is on TV. Well, no one's talking about CM Punk now. I'm like, no, but that's because MJF is on TV. and as soon as someone else is on TV, we will think about that person. Like we didn't forget who Wardlow is because MJF had an angle. It's very weird.
These people on the internet that we're obviously going to get into with what happened during this media scrum. The best tweet I read today, and it goes back to your famous quote, half these people wouldn't have survived the Monday Night Wars.
Right.
Well, of course, Tony Khan, the locker room, it's shenanigans left and right. People are fighting. They would have never survived Bret and Shawn.
Oh, no, of course not.
Like the real life hatred, but they somehow worked together in the ring, but didn't hurt each other, and they saw the greater good, but wouldn't speak to each other.
I remember. I don't know how old I was. I was, 15 or something. It was like 1996 ish. I remember there was a PWI or some non-official, like it wasn't the WWF magazine. It was like another wrestling magazine that had Shawn Michaels on the cover, and he was wearing an NWO shirt, and it was. His explanation for it was, they're my friends and I'm wearing their shirt, which in retrospect makes perfect sense. But at the time, I remember thinking, but why is he wearing an NWO? He's a WWF guy. Why? Like people would not, they could not handle that now. They could not, and I know we've talked about this before, how like, it's because it's not your fault. You've just only known WWE. Like if they've been the only company. But can you imagine if like Roman Reigns was wearing a CM Punk t-shirt or Kenny Omega was wearing a Cody shirt today when Cody's in WWE? Can you imagine that? How people would react? Like,
right.
The fact that they asked Ricky Starks, "Oh, are you still friends with Cody?" And he's like, "Well, obviously, like he just works at a different place. Like we're still." Like it doesn't mean like excommunicate him. He just got a new job. Like
right.
And, yeah, it would not survive anything that happened. And that sounds like being an old man to be like, you don't know what I went through, but like you don't know what we went through. Like,
no, not at all. The infamous it's going to be known as infamous now. Like it's the infamous press conference.
Yes.
That it was so blatantly bad and so blatantly terrible that the owner of the company was sitting right next to the guy and didn't say or do anything about it. And I mean, that's real life. It's how a owner of the company would handle shit all over his company right in front of him. He would totally just sit there.
Even if one of two things, even if you're one of the people who think Tony Khan is such an ineffective leader that he doesn't know what to do when CM Punk goes off, even if you think that somehow this billionaire owner of a wrestling company and football team and is so bad at his job that he doesn't know how to stand up to CM Punk. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't know how to stand up. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe he doesn't know how to stand up to CM Punk and he doesn't know what to do. He would have just ended the press conference.
Exactly.
There were other times when people asked about stuff, like the guy who asked about should you have called an audible, and Tony Khan immediately shot them down. Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the match. Like why he would not just go, okay, well, CM Punk's done. We're not going to have any more questions about Colt Cabana. We're going to talk about, his match with Jon Moxley. Why you would think he would not have done that.
Exactly. But
and like two things can be true, like we've said a bunch of times. CM Punk could have a legitimate issue with Colt Cabana. Maybe everything he said about Colt Cabana, he actually feels. Maybe they have an argument. They have a falling out. Maybe they hate each other. Maybe CM Punk legitimately hates him and doesn't want to, wanted to call him out. That could be 100% true. But if you don't think that Tony Khan is okay with him saying this stuff.
Exactly.
When he's sitting right beside, this wasn't CM Punk on a podcast like the next day. Yes. This was like post pay-per-view with him sitting right beside him. Like, what do you think? Like, come on. Like, Tony Khan just keeps handing disgruntled wrestlers live mics.
Exactly.
And letting them say whatever they want. Like, you think that's his thinking? Like, I know this guy's mad and hates my company. I'm just going to give him a microphone, see what he has to say.
Right. And continue to pay him. So this goes back to
how many things could have happened while we're on the air, like while we're recording this. Like there could be 5 news stories like that we don't even know exist.
I know. It's been killing me. Like I nodded off once earlier in the show when I was on Twitter, so I was like, I can't go back on Twitter. But it goes back to how you were just saying about the Colt Cabana stuff. I'm glad you said that because I have a theory. And my personal theory is everyone always said, how do you turn Punk heel in Chicago?
Right.
You do this press conference.
Yeah, and good point.
You do it. I mean, it's still in
even
Chicago.
The fact that he was like obnoxiously eating like baked goods during it.
Which again, all part of being, he was being unprofessional on purpose.
Yeah, right.
Like he was eating like a slob and doing all that and like just grabbing the cake with his fingers and
licking his fingers while he's talking and like calling out individual reporters.
Yes, all highlighted on purpose. But so was the Colt Cabana thing, in my opinion, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because I guarantee, this is my guarantee of the century, guarantee they have already, people don't know about it, they just themselves, and this is coming out and saying that yes, we're friends again, and we've been friends for this whole time, but we just kept it on the radar.
And even if they're not friends, they're like cool with each other, like they can work with each other and it's fine. Yeah.
And what Punk is giving him is he's giving him Chicago.
Right.
And he's going to put him over because obviously, and he damn well better be part of this stable now. He's obviously either going to help Max win the title or screw Punk out of a rematch, or like he is going to be the babyface when Punk is the heel, and then that better be Punk's next feud.
And even if he doesn't, even if he has no on-screen interaction with Punk, like Colt Cabana and Punk don't have any interaction with each other whatsoever. Like say it's true and Colt's just in ROH, like he's now put him over as a face. Like he's exactly the reaction Colt Cabana gets the next time he's on TV is going to be bigger because of this.
Well, there was a Twitter, a Twitter. There was a tweet that I was reading before we started. People were there's a hashtag chant Colt Cabana. So
Right.
anytime Punk's in the ring, they want people chant Colt Cabana and then doing the collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, Punk he just made Colt bajillions of dollars. Literally. I mean, he gave him the city of Chicago.
I know, like now the podcast is going, well, we try to make it not 2 hours, but it's going to go over 2 hours because
way over 2 hours.
We have to. Like, if you only wanted to hear an All Out recap, we did it. Good job. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
But much like AEW just continued after the show ended, we're gonna go. This could be 3 hours. Like, I don't know. Like, we could go on for a while here.
Yes.
Because like, there's so many things. It can be true. Like, even if there's truth, there was truth to Brett and Sean, right? Obviously, they hated each other, right? And you can work yourself into a shoot, brother. Like, you can start off, acting like it's fake, and it can become real. Like that's possible. Like, it can happen. Apparently, Brett and Sean did that. They started cutting promos on each other, and it didn't get real till Sean mentioned Sonny, and that Brett thought Brett had an affair with Sonny. Right. So then it became real. So it's entirely possible that this could start off as a work and turn into a shoot and fall out and become a whole thing. But it's also entirely possible that maybe Punk doesn't like Hangman or the Elite. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't get along and they're not friends and they don't have, but they could still be working with each other.
Yeah.
They could decide, hey, we don't like each other. The internet kind of knows we don't like each other. We're from AEW. We're from Japan. We're from the Indies. You're not. You were in WWE. Everyone knows that there's this thing, and we're going to play this up because it's going to make us all a bunch of money. And just because they don't like each other, and they may like each other, I don't know. But even if they don't, it doesn't mean that they can't work together. And this can't be planned. Because it could definitely be planned.
Exactly. And I, as you were talking, just thought of something that gives this away even more as being a work, because I totally think it is a work. Punk even said the reason that he signed with AEW is because he knew the locker room could keep secrets because of what they did for Brody Lee.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
I also thought, I don't know.
Wow.
Go ahead. I don't know I don't know where I saw this. It was like a YouTube video, or maybe it was like an interview he did while he was not wrestling. Now I forget the guy who was talking about. Anyway, it doesn't matter really. He was telling a story once. Punk was telling a story about when he was when FCW before it was NXT, like when it was WWE's developmental brand, but it was FCW.
Right.
He was telling a story about when he was down there, and Paul Heyman was booking, and he kind of let Punk book the shows for a while because he's like, you're an experienced guy, you've been around. I want to teach you. He explained it as, I want to teach you everything about wrestling. So I want to teach you how to book a show too, in case you ever have to do that thing. So Punk was kind of booking the shows. So he was, the veteran, the older guy.
Right.
And there was one show where I could be telling the details of the story wrong, but this is the gist of the story. They were all sitting around after the show talking, and it was Punk and a bunch of the younger guys, and they were all talking about something. And it was a day when some of the, older legends, WWE legends were there to watch the show and critique the show and whatever. Right. And one of them, I forget who it was criticizing the way CM Punk tapes his hands and his wrists and saying that it looks like you're injured the way you tape your whole arm. It looks like a cast or something. I thought it makes you look weak. I think it makes you look weak. Like, it looks like you're wearing casts on your arms.
Right.
And Punk was in this interview was saying, telling him off, sort of like, oh, you don't know my character. You don't know anything about me. You've seen one show and you're telling me that I tape my wrist wrong when you don't know anything about how I wrestle or anything about my character, why I do this or anything. And then yesterday, Punk got mad that he's a veteran and none of the young guys listened to his tips when he previously made a big point about how the old guys don't always know what they're talking. He's become the guy that he hates.
Right.
and
right,
and so quickly that it can't be real. Like,
right.
like he's become absolutely everything he hates about wrestling. He's become the Triple H, the Vince McMahon, the angry old guy saying you don't know, but like overnight, right? So like, or in the course of a couple months, right? Where like this is even if some of it's real, it's not entirety. Like it's not. He's working. He's definitely working. And the only doubt I have about this is whether he's working on his own and drumming up business for himself and by extension the company, or if this is more detailed than that and he's working, with the Elite and with Tony and with everyone to like make this a whole thing. That's the only doubt I have in terms of the storyline. I don't doubt that it's a work. It's a work. I just don't know how deep it goes. It's like the MJF thing. I don't know if MJF had a new contract or was really upset about his contract. I don't know if he, threatened to no-show the pay-per-view or not. But when they gave him that microphone and he cut that promo, that was a work. Definitely, 100%. Yeah. Just like when Punk had this microphone yesterday, it was a work. I don't know what else surrounded it. I don't know who else is involved. I don't know what is, but like that actual promo, work, guaranteed, definitely. Yep. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, that wasn't even him as a human being. Like just
his voice didn't even sound the same.
Like I mean, he just shit on every. Like, he wasn't happy with anything. And he was being a loud, obnoxious. Look how great I am. I'm the best. I'm loud. Look how loud I am now. Like, he was. I think I told you this morning. I said something like, "Oh my God, he's Jay White."
Yeah,
that was exactly like that's a Jay White promo.
Even naming the individual journalist to be like, "I know who you are."
Yes, it was wonderful.
And you combine it with last night, I thought something was an All Out night. I'm saying last night because it's Monday now, but we're going to release this anyway. Even when he cut a promo early, when he had him showing up in the arena and he cut that promo talking about, Chicago firefighters and teachers and shouting out the name of a bakery, like that was such a face promo that you knew a heel thing was coming next, because that's not CM Punk either. CM Punk's character is not like, also shout out to the teachers. Like that's also not who he is, right? So like, this is it's
so
doing
obvious.
It's doing its job too, because like we mentioned, WWE had a show that for all you know was a very good show, and we're taping this on Monday. I don't know what happened on Raw. As we've
it's still on. I can turn it on right now.
As we've shown a couple weeks ago, we don't know what's happening. Maybe we're completely wrong, but Raw was supposed earlier in the day Monday. Raw was coming up that night, and no one cared. No one who cared about wrestling was talking about Raw, and Raw has been better. Raw, I mean, WWE has had some momentum. They've been doing a lot of good things, and this whole situation absolutely dominated what any wrestling fan was talking about.
Yeah,
and that's not a coincidence. That doesn't just accidentally happen, right? Right. CM Punk didn't sound like, you can say like he's a jerk, like he's maybe not the nicest guy. Maybe he gets angry too easily, or maybe he takes things too personally. Like, I don't know him, but maybe he does. Even from documentaries, he does seem like he takes things pretty personally. And he does seem kind of like he's a little abrasive sometimes. Like those things all seem 100% true. But he didn't suddenly become like the biggest jerk in the world.
Yes.
Overnight. Like, come on.
Right.
And also, I mean, we talked... I looked this up to get a summary of. We'll go back to the press conference, but everyone knows, who's listening to this now, knows that there was a altercation backstage after or during the press conference, right? That
big quote
between the Elite and Punk and Ace Steel bit a guy apparently. But anyway, this is from PWI Insider. I read a recap by Mike Johnson of PW Insider of what happened, and I'm just going to read a bit of it. I know it's just reading on a podcast, but I'm just going to read a bit of it and you can react to it.
Yeah.
After Punk finished venting his heart out At the All Out media scrum, he returned to his locker room when there was an altercation. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks went to Punk's locker room and confronted him about his comments during the scrum. There was a physical altercation with Punk and Matt and Nick Jackson. No one's sharing stories about quite sure who threw the first punch. Kenny Omega was there, but did not get into a physical altercation with Punk. Ace Steel arrived and did get involved, as his wife was in the vicinity of the incident, possibly even inside the locker room as she was watching Punk's dog Larry. Steel was said to get physically involved. A number of AEW staff and security hit the scene to break up the fight and separate the Elite side from the Punk side. Once the side was separated, they continued to argue for some time before the Bucks and Omega exited the area of Punk's locker room. There was a lot of yelling from each side. Tony Khan was not present. At least one of the Bucks returned to the hotel last night sporting a black eye.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, when you talk about leaks coming from AEW, Punk even alluded to it. The leaks are coming from the EVPs. He said so himself during this press conference that the EVPs are the ones leaking all the backstage drama to the media. So if there's a leak, if this is real, say you're a guy who assumes this is real, right? If there's a leak, it comes from the Bucks or Kenny. And why would they leak this?
Yeah,
why would they leak that? Why would they
leak that, beat up?
That they went to CM Punk's locker room, got beat up, Ace Steel bit them.
Right.
And then they left, and one of them had a black eye. Like, why would they do that? Like, and if that happened, why is not like someone being punished? Right. Like,
that's what I was just gonna say. And if that really happened, if like they beat up the executive vice president, that's what EVP stands for. If you beat up the executive vice president of your company, you will not have a job.
Yeah. And I get that two things. First of all, I get that people say that, oh, this, even if it's fake, it makes AEW look bad because it makes them look unprofessional. Yeah. And I see the argument there. Like, I can see that argument that it makes the company look unprofessional, makes Tony Khan look like he's not a good manager. But like, the last 2 weeks, ratings have been up for Dynamite. I'm pretty sure ratings will be up for Dynamite this week. Like, if it's working and they're getting more fans to watch the show. I mean, Vince McMahon got punched in the face by Bret Hart, and it only made him his character more popular. Like, that's where the Mr. McMahon character came from.
Yeah.
And and this is what Tony Khan has grown up watching. So he can see how, like, maybe it made Vince McMahon look like an awful person, but you can spin that to promote your TV show and make your TV show more popular. And there's no doubt in my mind that Tony Khan can see this as a way, or the Elite, or Punk. I'm not even going to give Tony Khan credit. Say you're a person who gives Tony Khan no credit. Punk and the Elite know what they're doing. They understand the internet. Yeah. I mean, the Elite knows the internet. Yes. They 100% know how to use the internet. And I'm sure that they see this as a way to get more eyes on the program. And my conspiracy theory of all of this is when Cody said he was leaving, I told you, I tweeted it. I thought it was a work. 100%. Thought it was a work. He was going to leave and he was going to come back working without a contract. Like, I thought that's what was going to happen. And it didn't. It was real. He left. He went to WWE, which I didn't think would happen, and he did. I think that the Elite and Punk saw that happen and saw how people took it as a leak and how that made more interest in the product, and thought, oh, now that that was real and Cody actually did leave, well, if people thought that was a work and it turned out to be real, well, they're going to believe this.
Right.
When we talk about how the other EVPs are also upset, right? How there's also an argument, like, because Cody was real, just like because Punk lost in 3 minutes, you thought maybe it'll end in 3 minutes again. Because Cody's backstage drama was real, now you're going to believe this. If Cody hadn't left and Cody was still there, you probably wouldn't believe it. But because he did leave, now you believe it.
Exactly. The dynamics of it. I mean, you brought this up too. I totally praise for some people.
Right.
All those people that he had praise for, though, just seemed to all happen to be ex-WWE people.
Right. Yeah, Adam Cole's a great guy. Even though he's good friends with the Elite, he's a great guy. Jon Moxley's a great guy. You know who made a lot of money for me? Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Even put Vince McMahon over Tony Khan. Like, even on that list. a lot of people made money on my name. And then he looked and he was like, well, Tony's not on it yet.
Yeah. He even said something like, I'm trying to run a business here. Just to like, just, oh, well, he's trying to take over. He's really in charge, not Tony Khan. Like,
I mean, come on.
There's levels to the degree that this could be a work. Like, I'm willing to talk to you about levels of this being a work, like who's involved, who knows, who doesn't know. Like, I agree with there's levels to it. I'm willing to talk to you about whether or not something like this helps the company or hurts it. Like, maybe it's turning some fans away. Like, they don't want the backstage drama. They don't want any. They just want to watch wrestling. So that could be that's a legitimate conversation to have. But if your thinking is they just gave CM Punk a mic and let him totally bash everybody in the company for 20 minutes and did nothing about it, like, no, they didn't. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
It would have, like you said, it lasted about 9 seconds.
It would have lasted the first question, and then Tony Khan would have been like, we're not talking about that anymore, and moved on.
Yes. And if Punk, he would have cut the feed, and like that's what would really happen.
Yeah.
Punk, he had that. I mean, because he knew exactly what he was doing. 100%. Like I said, even the way he was eating was obnoxious. Like,
yeah,
all so good. He did break character and became regular CM Punk. Honestly, he did when he talked about Danhausen. Like, apparently,
right,
he was having some boot problems, and Danhausen offered up his boots, and they fit perfectly. And he literally, like, it was almost like watching a supervillain in a movie.
Yeah,
because like he went from, I don't know what he was talking about before, and like, oh, I said I would go to the wheels fall off. You know what? The wheels almost fell off because my boots didn't fit me. Blah blah blah. I had to go through Danhausen of all things, and he's laughing and ha ha ha. As soon as that was over, like, I don't know, we'll just say he went right back to Hangman or the Elite or something, and he just went right back to the evil stuff. It was so right now. Good.
I'm seeing a tweet that apparently Fightful says that Ace Steel won't be back in the company. Like, he did something, which I think may have happened. Like, he might have. Here's the thing. I think even if the fight happened, which I don't know if the fight happened, but say for the sake of argument, the fight did happen, right? When Punk was giving that promo backstage, the media scrum promo, you could tell he had a narrative to push too, because they would talk about something else. He like, no, I want to go back to talking about this, right? Like he was going back to it. Like, he made a point. This is what I want to talk about. This is the thing I want to get. This wasn't like a guy who just got angry and flew off the handle. He had a planned thing to talk about. It may have upset some people. Like I said, you can work yourself into a shoot, right? Like, maybe he didn't tell everyone else involved that this was planned, and somebody got offended, right? Like, maybe, the Sammy Eddie Kingston thing, where Sammy said something in a promo, thought he was being say you take that as real, right? Sammy said something in a promo, thought he was being a heel, but it actually upset Eddie Kingston, right? Like, I can see that kind of stuff happening in wrestling, where you think you're just being a heel and you go too far and it upsets the other guy. And then, like, there's a bit of heat and you probably work it out afterwards, right? So I could see that maybe Punk offended some people because they didn't know how far he was going to go, and he said something that they didn't want him to say. Like, I can see that. But to think that it was 100% legitimate is incorrect. Like, there's no way.
Well, personally, I think going back to the Sammy and Eddie thing, I think that was a test to see if things could actually grow legs. Don't think that was real at all.
Right.
Just because I said before, Eddie is too professional and respects professional wrestling too much. Would Eddie have told Sammy, "Hey, we have a problem. We're going to go out in the parking lot"? 100,000%. Would Eddie have belittled a man in front of his peers? Never in a million years. That doesn't even sound like Eddie Kingston's wrestling character.
Right. Like I totally think that the Elite and Punk could have a problem with each other. Like I don't doubt that. Like maybe
I think they're working together. That was
maybe
my point.
maybe they don't get along, but I think that they've decided that this is good. This is good for business to not get along.
Oh yeah, but I think they do get along, and I think they're all in on it. And I think the whole roster's in on it. Goes way back to what I said when Punk said the main reason I'm here is nothing leaked about Brody Lee, and that means the world to me. And everybody took that as, yes, that was a very beautiful statement to make about his respect for Brody Lee. But you can now look at it like he also looked at it, his wrestling mind, it probably for the first time in years started to think, like, holy hell, if a man's illness didn't get out until after he passed away, who was a professional wrestler, imagine what we could do.
Right. How well we can work people. Yeah.
Yes. He was like, if that locker room is that tight and that like close, if we could go in there and we can keep that closeness for the good of the whole. Like I always say, yes, on professional sports teams, there are guys that do not like each other, but they see the greater good.
Right.
They see the money and the championship.
Right.
You know? Yeah, Punk knew exactly what he was doing when he went into that locker room from day one. And that was his first seed that he planted. And
yeah, I agree. I love this tweet I just read. Sorry, now I started reading Twitter.
You're fine, go.
From Mary Kayfabe. I'm looking right at it so I can credit them. Imagine being such a Bret Mark that you get into a fight in your boss's locker room too. I just think that's great.
Oh wow. See, there you go.
And like, you're right. You mentioned to me before, like, there's no way. The story prior to Punk leaving, Punk getting injured, was MJF saying, you know, you turned your back on wrestling. You're not a great guy like you say you are. You turned your back on us. Eddie Kingston saying, you're not a great guy like you say you are. I know the people in the locker room, they actually hate you. You just act like you're a good guy, but you're not. Hangman Page saying, you're not a good guy. You're threatening this company. You're hurting AEW. Right. You're just here for yourself. And then you're telling me all of those people, they were acting. That was all part of the story. And then it turns out, oh, wait, Punk actually isn't a good guy and he's against the company. And like,
right. It's so well done. It is such high level of storytelling.
What someone else pointed out, no one even asked CM Punk about Colt Cabana.
And that's why it's all part of this. That
he just mentioned
Colt is part of this.
He just mentioned, oh, are you still friends with Colt Cabana? This is what I think about him, and like went on a tirade. Like he wasn't even asked about it. Like he went in there planning to talk about this.
Yes, 1,000%. And like I said, and Colt is part of it, like in a good way. Like there's so many layers to this. And why is Colt part of it? Because he knows he can trust him. Like I said, like you said earlier, maybe they don't get along. I think personally they made up, but that's probably wishful thinking, honestly. But in my mind, I want them to be friends. But he does know that he can trust him as far as like what he can pull off in wrestling. So if he was like, if he, like you said, if they shook hands, then we're not going to hang out anymore, but
we can get along enough to be coworkers.
It's water, it's water under the bridge. Yes, we work in the same place. We are going to see each other. Blah 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 blah. So now he shoots him an email or a text or something. It was like, hey, I got this plan, but it involves some pretty personal stuff. Do you mind if we bring this up, because we're going to do this and it's going to lead to this, which leads to this, and this is where you come in here. Like, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't take a shot at Colt Cabana's mother.
Right.
Like he has no problem with her.
Right.
Like they had a problem, yes. And why does he bring her into it? Like,
right.
He was just being a dick.
Yeah. Even the fact that like apparently what's going on the internet now is Ace Steel has been released or fired or gone or punished or something, right? Like we don't know what, but something, right?
Yeah. Okay. AKA part of it. But
did you even know Ace Steel worked for AEW last month? I didn't.
No.
All of a sudden, Ace Steel is on TV as CM Punk's friend, and then all of a sudden he's involved in this backstage angle, which involves him getting fired from the company. But like, did anyone talk about Ace Steel 2 months ago? Right? Like, no, nobody did. Right? Well, because
and
suddenly he becomes an on-screen character, which establishes Ace Steel and CM Punk as good friends, which most people I didn't know. Right. And
I
then
knew he trained him, but that's all I knew.
But then suddenly, now that he's been introduced to the audience who knows who he is, now he's no longer with the company. Like, no, it all seems it's too convenient. It works out too well. Life does not work out this well in real life.
And we're gonna get to something that you just said. Like you brought up a point. Ace Steel is a backstage guy, someone you can easily quote unquote fire. You don't see who's backstage,
right?
Like, again, the locker room's tight. They're not going to say, here's a picture of me on Instagram with Ace Steel backstage. Like, no, they would know not to do that anymore. Like,
I even noticed. I even noticed. I don't think they're going to do like an AEW Originals versus WWE storyline, and at least I hope they don't. I hope they don't have like we're the former WWE guys and we're all together. And I don't think that that's where they're going to go. I can't see that happening. But as you mentioned, Punk criticized everyone except for Adam Cole and Jon Moxley, ex-WWE guys. Toni Storm suddenly has a beef with Thunder Rosa. She's like, oh, she says she's injured. Like all of a sudden, like former WWE star Toni Storm has a problem with Thunder Rosa. And then Swerve and Keith Lee, who gave a very in-character press conference when Tony Khan was like, how about we have a rematch? They're like, they don't deserve a rematch. Like suddenly they're like also unprofessional, right? Like,
yes, yeah, come on.
and then Jericho is the response. Like when has Chris Jericho been like the voice of reason in a conversation, right?
Like I almost shut it off. Honestly, when it was him, I was like, I don't want to see this. He was the best one.
Yeah, but like he was like the reasonable, like AEW is special, guys. We have to treat this company like it's like suddenly Chris Jericho.
I was just gonna say
is suddenly the most responsible guy.
His was literally the icing on the cake. He was the only one that like everyone thought was quote unquote normal, but he was also playing a character.
Yeah.
Because why would Chris Jericho why would he do that? He's never the responsible one. Like, it's to see the layers. It's so good.
And again, this is me playing devil's advocate. Even if it's not a work, even if it's all real, like say you assume all of this is real, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Everybody asked for the 90s to come back in wrestling, the late 90s to come back in wrestling.
Yeah.
There you go. Are you mad at it now? You wanted this. The wrestling audience in general for years has wanted the late 90s to come back in wrestling. And now you're getting, Tony Khan taking shots at WWE and backstage drama and people fighting in the lock. And suddenly now you're like, well, this is I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean that 90s. Then what did you want back? That was the good part, right?
Because
the in-ring work wasn't good. The way they treated, women wasn't good. So what's the part?
I was just gonna say,
what's the part that you wanted back? If it wasn't the drama and like that's the part, right? Like,
and I mean, and if you want to go like character-wise, we have Slim J. I mean, he screams the 90s,
right?
Because you're not gonna ever get Val Venus back. If that's who you want back, like.
If you just wanted them to make sex jokes, that's not going to happen. Like that's not the part of the 90s that is coming back.
Right. But I everything that Punk said was perfect, except there's he ruined it for me, took me out of it. First off, he denies answering a question from a journalist who has Penguins gear on. Hilarious. That I don't have a problem with. Amazing, because that is in character Punk.
Yeah.
Even when he's not in character. Doesn't like the Penguins. But he ends his press conference. Of all things, he hits so many personal notes. He brings it back to the year 1992 when the Penguins beat the living hell out of the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe we swept them, if I'm not mistaken, because Ed Belfour couldn't make a save.
Yes.
Yes. So
the birth of Dominic Hasek as a legitimate starting goaltender.
Yes, which actually brought the butterfly into the NHL, which was crazy because that's why Mario was like, "Oh, that'll never catch on. You're just too high." Well, Mario did just that and scored like 9 goals in the Stanley Cup final or something. It wasn't that many, but anyways, and I quote, he looks directly in the camera, and I'm not even going to say it because I have too much respect for Mr. Francis. He says the F word to Ron Francis.
Yes.
You don't do that. And then after that, he comes back and says, you know what? F Sidney Crosby and F Evgeny Malkin too. That was hilarious. But the Ron Francis one, I do not stand well with. Just take your ass whooping, punk. Take it. We whooped you in those playoffs. No, you guys didn't even show up.
Okay, now, sorry. Sean Ross Sapp, 2 hours ago in our time, spoke to numerous WWE staff and talent about their thoughts on this AEW brawl. One said, if they don't get over it and make money with it, none of them have any business talking about who's drawing what houses. For reference, this was from a top WWE talent who absolutely has a track record to back up talking like this. Yes, whoever said that is correct. They're doing this to make money off of it. Like that's what it is. That's what it is. And yes, the internet. I have so many problems with I know this is going on long. I don't even care anymore. Like I feel like CM Punk at the end where I'm just like I want a muffin and like to be sweaty and just like to go off on people. Like the internet now, I saw a bunch of people sharing this clip from the summer of Punk in WWE in 2011 where Triple H was telling off CM Punk, being like, "Yeah, Triple H was right." I mean, if we're at the point where we're like, "Oh, by the way Triple H acted in 2011 in that universally panned angle with CM Punk that everyone thought was bad creatively, bad for business, not good TV." If now we're at the point where everyone's like, actually, he was correct, we've lost it. Like we've completely lost where we need to be. I know you liked NXT, and I know you thought that he did it, put up whatever. He's better than Vince McMahon at like not firing people. Like I agree with you, but Vince McMahon fires people because like they look at him wrong. So like, yeah, Triple H is better than that. So sure, that's the bar we're at. But if we're honestly at the point where like, actually, Triple H was right when he came out of retirement, beat CM Punk, criticized him constantly, and then it completely ignored his whole character. That was the only reason multiple people came back to watching wrestling. Actually, I'm going to side with Triple H. But no, come on. That's too far. That's too far.
Oh, I love it. It's so amazing.
To say that actually Triple H was doing a good thing when he just like belittled CM Punk on TV in 2011 is insane. Right. They totally killed any angle that they had. Didn't even make sense. Started texting Kevin Nash from his own phone. Like none of it made sense. And now you're like, actually, that was correct. I support that. Like, no, we've gone too far. I know that like if you're 20 years old, that's your childhood. But like, no, you're wrong. Like, not everything you watched when you were a kid is good. Like, I watched a lot of TV, like movies and TV shows that I loved when I was a kid that I won't even watch now because I know they're not good, and I like them because I was 10 years old. So like, just because something happened years ago and you remember it fondly, it doesn't mean it's good, and it's not good now. Like, nothing about Triple H in the summer of Punk was good. So even if CM Punk is a horrible person who you hate, like, don't give me that actually that angle was good and Triple H should have said those things. No, that's it. That's where I'm drawing this line.
That is a great line to have. it just it boggles my mind. It really does. I was just on Twitter as you were saying that, and I was listening, and literally I'm not even gonna direct quote the person because I don't want them, if they're a follower, to really know that I read it and I'm gonna on them a little bit. They they said, if anybody, and I quote poorly because I don't want them to know it was me. If anybody should be upset about this, it's Tony Khan, because in reality he could be on a yacht somewhere, but no, he has true love for pro wrestling and it is being taken advantage of. If you're an adult and truly believe that statement, or that's very paraphrased and I changed some things around, but that's basically what you said. Uh, Come on, you're better than that.
Yeah.
Like, because yes, he could be on a yacht somewhere.
He could be on a yacht somewhere, and you think instead he's deciding that I have this company that I've invested money in, a lot of money, and that I invested a lot of time in, and I'm just gonna sit there and let this guy
bully me.
Totally put, and then we're gonna upload it to our YouTube channel and just leave it there. Like, we're not. When MJF did his work shoot, they pulled it because that's what a company would do if something like that happened for real. And but you think this is real, and we're just leaving it. We're just gonna leave it up there, and we're gonna let everybody just watch it and share it and talk about it as much as they want, because it's so real and so damaging to our company that we want to have it just on the internet publicly.
And here we go.
It actually would have been better for the angle if they pulled it, by the way, but they didn't, because it's not, like, come on.
But actually, again, I didn't even realize it till this very second. You just said it. Nobody was talking about Raw on my Twitter. People were still talking about last night.
And maybe
Raw is now over.
Maybe it's who we follow or what, but like I just follow generally just people who watch wrestling, and usually on Mondays they're talking about Raw, and they weren't. So like,
they're still not.
So mission accomplished. Like, good job. Like, they did what they needed to do. And hey, like I said, the ratings the last couple of weeks with all this controversy around CM Punk and Jon Moxley have been up, right? I think, based on what I've seen, they will be up again. I think people are going to watch Dynamite. There's a chance that all of this backstage drama, maybe there's people who watched AEW since the beginning and they're like, oh, I like how it was better before because it was different. Like, the first couple of years, the first year and a half, it was different, right? Maybe this is going to turn off people. Maybe people won't watch it and they don't want to watch the show, and the backstage drama is not what they're interested in, and they don't like CM Punk, or they don't want to see. Maybe that's going to happen, and maybe it'll hurt them financially. It'll hurt their ratings. But I think that's the chance they're taking, because the alternative is they're the talk of the wrestling world. Everybody watches their show. Everybody knows who they are. And everyone complains that, AEW's audience hasn't grown much since CM Punk. Well, what do you think they're trying to? That's what the point of this is. They're trying to grow it. The same people complained when CM Punk was coming out every week and going, I just want to work with young guys and having matches with power. They complained about that, and now they're complaining about this. The same people who complained about, Cody was had a problem with the EVPs, and they treated Cody unfairly. That's why Cody suddenly now, the EVPs are right. Like, no, you can't just think whatever. You can't just go back and forth on whatever you think, because like, you just want to be mad on the internet. Like,
at least be a good troll. Like, if you're gonna troll, be like a good one. Don't like it's so good. And it's so good because, like I said, I'm like 99.999% sure that at least the promo, the Punk part, the press conference was a work. Like, I'm very sure of that. But I don't know how much the rest of it is work. I don't know what actually happened. I don't know who actually likes who. I don't know who actually hates who. I don't know what's going to happen. And that's exactly what you want. Like, you want people to watch your show because they don't know what's going to happen, and they want to watch it to see what's going to happen. They totally, it's Dynamite is now must see. Like, this week, Dynamite is must see. Like, people were talking about nonstop. I cannot wait to see these ratings. Like, normally I'm not a ratings person. I always, even back in the day, I always thought that was dumb. Like,
the show that you like is the show that you like, whatever.
Exactly. Like, back in the day when I watched Raw, I didn't care if 9 billion people were watching Nitro. Like, I
Right.
would watch Nitro the next day. I would
Right.
record it, but like, didn't matter to me who was watching what. Yeah, exactly. Like, watch what you want.
The only
Watch
time
what
I
you
care
like.
about ratings is like if it gets so bad that you think the show might get canceled. That's the only time
Yes.
I don't want the show I don't want Dynamite to draw, you know, 1,000
Yeah.
people and then they
Right.
cancel the show. Like, I don't want that.
Right.
But that's the extent I care about this.
And I'm just curious, like, they've broke 1 million once, correct?
A couple times.
Okay. Have they
But
ever
like,
hit like
I think they hit like 1.
or...
I think they hit like one. The first, not including the first show. The first show got like 1.4 or something.
Okay.
But I think they got like 1.1 maybe, like the first week CM, like around 1.1. Like they've been around there.
Okay, so it would be interesting to see if they hit that 1.5. If they could hit 1.5 million people, this worked.
Right. Even if they hit 1.2, even if they went up, 200,000 from last week.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Even if guaranteed there's somebody who either didn't know what AEW was or didn't watch AEW who heard about this and is now going to watch AEW.
Yes.
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Like,
guaranteed. Well, I'm not tooting our own horns, but our podcast numbers went up and we had the most listens ever just from last week. Just during, just the last episode. Unreal.
So I have talking about how no one is talking about Raw.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to verify this before I say it. So give me a second. Talk about something else.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about these people that like they're complaining about what happens on the internet, and they jump into something and they believe it and they hate it and blah blah blah. These are the same people that Vince McMahon got into a limousine that exploded and was back on TV in like a week and a half. And imagine if Tony Khan did something like that. It's like an April Fool's Day joke.
Right.
The internet would destroy him. Like, Vince McMahon, like, they didn't even talk about it or reference it again, and everyone was like, "Well, wait a minute, didn't your car just explode?"
So here's the thing I want to say.
Go ahead.
No one was talking about Raw from what we saw, right?
Correct.
Braun Strowman returned today on Raw. Do you hear any? Which was a big deal. Do you hear any? Like, no, because people are still talking about CM Punk.
Exactly.
Like, that's the point. That's the point.
Yep.
And maybe, casual fans who don't follow the internet aren't talking about it. Maybe they're not. Like, maybe it's just the people on Twitter who were like really hardcore into wrestling. Like, they are. Like, if you're reading wrestling Twitter accounts, you care more than the average wrestling fan.
100%.
Right. So maybe it's just those people. But if you can get those people to talk about it, then you have a buzz. Then you have something that people want to tell their friends about. People want to, tweet. Like, maybe they don't normally tweet about wrestling, and now they're going to tweet about wrestling. And now someone who follows them for something else. Oh, what are you talking about? I want to hear about this, right? Like, you're getting some sort of traction around it, which admittedly that has been AEW's problem. When Punk and Danielson and Adam Cole all showed up a year ago around the same time. And Punk made that comment about how it was like Bash at the Beach for them.
Yeah. Well, it was literally 1 year ago.
Yeah. There was a lot of thinking about how this is going to push them closer to WWE. No one thought they'd pass WWE, but the thinking was WWE was in a down period at the time, and AEW was going to push close to them. And they never really got there. Raw still gets 2 million and AEW gets they're still half of Raw's audience. Right. So they haven't done what a lot of people thought they were going to do. So maybe just having happy friends time wrestling matches isn't what it's going to take. Maybe maybe that worked when there was no crowd and AEW was first starting, and we all needed that. Like I've said before, AEW got me through the early part of the pandemic because like it was a thing to look forward to. Like everything was dire and scary and uncertain. And AEW was like, this is a show that I know I'm going to like, and it's going to be fun. And the shows were fun. I mean, they had,
they were. Yes,
they had fun. They had fun shows, but this is like the quote unquote attitude that pushed ECW and WWE in the 90s to being what they became. And this is what at least Tony Khan or at least CM Punk or at least the Elite thinks that we need now. It's not friends time anymore. Being friends got us to 1 million, but it's going to get us to 2 billion? Apparently not. So maybe this is what's going to get us to I don't know. But it's worth a shot.
You know what I was this amazing. This just popped in my head. Like, again, we don't know if the Bucks, I personally think the Bucks and Punk are friends, but we obviously know they're working together. But it doesn't matter if they're friends or not. You have the Bucks, who they very much use the internet to their advantage. Punk understands the internet. Punk uses the internet. But the Bucks now have something that they never had in their repertoire before. Somebody that is mentored under like Harley Race and Dusty Rhodes and the great minds of professional wrestling to, hey, Punk, come here. If we do this, do you think this can lead to this? We'll let this leak out. Like, they're using like old school wrestling tactics in the 21st century with the internet, and it's amazing.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And I mean, there's a chance we're wrong. I 100% thought Cody, if we had a podcast when Cody announced he was leaving AEW, there would be recordings of me going, this is definitely a work. This is not right. Like, so maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe, you know, Punk's gonna get stripped of the title and the Elite's gonna lose. Like, maybe that's gonna happen. Like, it's possible. I just really, 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 really doubt it. I really doubt it.
I'm right there with you. It's so good. So good.
Like, if Punk, the AEW champion, and 3 EVPs of the company legitimately got into a fist fight, like, unless they're all like fired tomorrow, there's no way that's real.
No, that's definitely not real, because they would have been fired on the spot. Like, like I said, like, EVP is executive vice president. Like, push your, like, go up to your EVP, your company tomorrow, Rick, and just push him. See how long you still have a
job. See what happens then. And anyone who thinks this is real, walk up to a vice president of your company and punch him in the face.
And see how long you still have a job. And I don't care how long you've been there. Like, you know, you could be 50 years with this company. That doesn't work that way. Especially a company that it's live. It was live. Like, come on. Like, and like, people want Brandon Cutler to release the fight, because obviously he films like all the Bucks, like, behind the scenes stuff. If there's footage of it, it's definitely a work, because if they were going to confront him, why would Brandon Cutler be filming a bit for being the Elite? Like, if they were really going into a fight.
When Vince McMahon got punched in the face by Bret Hart, they were filming the documentary. They didn't film it because they knew that had nothing to do with the documentary. That was going to be like a personal thing between two people. So like, they weren't filming it.
So
can you imagine the internet? Can you imagine the internet if the Montreal Screwjob happened? Can you imagine Twitter? Like, we had the internet, but we didn't have Twitter, right?
That's very true. Yeah. Oh, geez.
And I know we've gone long. If you're still listening, thank you. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job holding on this long, and sorry but like, come on, people.
Well, we're gonna ask you a question here real quick. What's your opinion on the Montreal Screwjob? Is that real, or is that shoot or work, Rick?
I think that's they worked themselves into a shoot. I think that was I think it started off as like, we're gonna make this an angle. And I think it went too far. I do think that Sean politicked his way into getting Bret Hart released, because Vince McMahon's explanation is that he had to let go of Bret Hart because he didn't have money to pay Bret Hart.
Which I mean, lamest excuse ever.
But Eric Bischoff has even pointed out that was in November of 1997. By January 1998, they hired Mike Tyson to be the referee at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
So that cost money too, right? So like, how did you not have the money, right? So someone talked to him going, okay, we only have so much money. We can either get Mike Tyson or we can keep Bret Hart. And he chose Mike Tyson. Like, it wasn't, we didn't have money. It was making a choice. So I think he got politicked. Like, I think he got played by Sean into cutting Bret. But I think that started off as a work. They were going to play up their feud, and I think it got too personal. That's my take. Only because Bret actually got released. Like, if Bret hadn't actually got released and they just had a fight, I would think it was a work. But because Bret actually went to WCW, I feel like that's too far to call it a work.
See, I was with you until like maybe a little over 10 years ago. I really I went down the rabbit hole one day on the internet, and I mean, I went down it. For like days, I was just like searching stuff and like reading stuff. Too many things line up. And what made me ask you this is because you brought up that documentary. What are the freaking chances they're making a documentary on Bret the Hitman Hart?
Yeah, why would anyone be making a documentary on Bret the Hitman Hart? To be fair, like,
yes, especially at that time,
right?
Like, I mean, he had been champion for like a bajillion years, but like everybody knew he's like a good person and like, this, that, like, why, like, okay, why was that happening?
Right.
It was just super weird that they happened to be there the night that everything went down.
Right.
But they kept the microphones on them.
Right.
Like again, I'd never thought of that because I was with you with the camera. Like, oh, well, yeah, they respected them. They didn't go in there. But no, there's actual recordings that are in the documentary of the conversation.
Right.
So, and like everyone was like, yeah, but Vince really had a black eye. If you're going to make bajillions of dollars, I would definitely let you punch me in the face. Like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other viewpoint to think of it. Maybe.
I think it's the greatest wrestling work of all time.
Maybe Bret wanted to leave, or maybe Vince legitimately didn't want to pay him anymore. Like, maybe those things are legit.
Yeah.
And they thought of a good way to get out of it.
And make them both look. That would send Bret to WCW at the top of his game. And that creates Vince
as the Mr. McMahon character that he turned into. Like, they thought of a good way to get out of this. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
And this was like I said, I have like a master's degree. The amount of years or amount of time I spent when I went down that rabbit hole. But yeah, to me, too much just lined up. But anyways.
Yeah, and it would make sense because, and I'm not going to turn this into a Montreal Screwjob podcast. The last thing I'm going to say on this is that makes sense because they thought of a way to get out of it, and then the accident with Owen happened, and that actually hurt their relationship. Like, from that point on, then they couldn't. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the.
So someone tweeted, I don't know, the screen capture of something. Like, I don't know if it's what site they screen captured. I just retweeted it. Punk and the Bucks get into a physical altercation. Omega and Steel had a separate one. Ace Steel cracked Nick with a steel chair. One person saying he's lucky he isn't in jail. Several people in the company believe he won't be back. Security was called, with one person saying they were trying to save lives from Ace Steel.
Yeah, I'm very sure that Ace Steel brought a steel chair to a backstage fight and actually hit a man with it.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Like, why would he bring a steel chair?
Right. Like, like what?
That's great.
I mean, it's like I can't even comprehend that. And on that note, we're going to end it there. Thank you, everybody, for putting up with us for this amount of time.
And we don't claim to know anything. For the record,
No,
like we don't even know anything. We are just two guys.
Yeah,
and
two random people,
and it's entirely possible and likely that we're wrong. Just so you know.
Yeah, take that everything. And when I say this is just my opinion on something, like I totally 100% just my opinion.
And we previously had Johnny Gargano is definitely showing up as Johnny Gargano was on Raw. So
that was not a work.
Right.
That was 100% real.
But the interesting thing is everybody wants to know what's going to happen on Dynamite, which is
that's it.
Which is good.
Dynamite became must-see TV all of a sudden. So
there you go.
Everybody, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed All Out Week, the All Out recap podcast we just did. It was so much fun, and here we are. It's Monday night, and we're still talking about All Out. And like I said, there were 2 other wrestling shows last weekend, so it did its job. So please
great show,
follow us.
Great angle,
good.
and I
and
like we said, I don't think it overshadows how good All Out was. Everyone knows All Out was a good show, and this just added to it.
100%. I'll end it with probably the best quote of the night. On Twitter, somebody posted they should have charged another $50 for the press conference because it was still part of the show.
Yeah,
and it really was.
For sure.
Anyways, follow us on Twitter at Elite City Pod. We got a lot of followers during All Out Week, so thank you. Subscribe, like, comment. We got a voice message this week. Thank you, Mr. Pondo. It took us a minute to figure out how to hear it, but it was figured out. Thank you for the voice message. Leave us messages. Did not know that was an option until we got one. So that's why I've been plugging it. Yeah, now we know. I have no idea how he did it either. So you guys can figure it out. But thank you. And that was All Out. So Wednesday, wow. Buckle up because it's going to be a hell of a ride. So till next time, later.